because the alternative is we're giving in, we're losing the war, all the people who have died. Is it for nothing? So you don't ever really hear people talking about the idea of conceding territory or the thought of Russia winning. For them, it's not even a possibility that people seem to entertain.
Alex Hogan, Fox News foreign correspondent in Kyiv in Ukraine. Great to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1 and newstalkstl.com.
Prescription products require completion of an online consultation with an independent healthcare provider and are only available if prescribed. Subscription required. Additional restrictions apply. See website for more details and safety information. Should Viagra really cost $90 per pill? We don't think so. RexMD has FDA-approved generic Viagra medication of that little blue pill starting at just $2. Why pay huge pharmacy prices when you can get the same results for a fraction of the cost? Give your bank account a break. Just fill out a brief survey, and if appropriate, you'll get a starter pack prescription of industry-leading generic Viagra medication. Just call 800-215-3126. We've helped over 100,000 men with their sex lives and with getting prescription medications direct. Your consultation is free, there's no doctor office visits, and your shipping is always free. Get your starter pack now. Call 800-215-3126. That's 800-215-3126. Again, 800-215-3126. This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-251-8381 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-251-8381. That's 800-251-8381. What do you have to lose? Call 800-251-8381. That's 800-251-8381.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
It's Tuesday, and at 4:25, we'll have David Stokes from the Show Me Institute, and we'll dive more into this Joe Biden document scandal.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 3:30 on News Talk STL.
Hey guys, Columbo here, reminding you that if you belong to an organization like a school or a church, or your kids are part of a group or a sports team that needs to raise money, there's no better way to do so than with a TJ's Pizza fundraiser. TJ's Pizza has been helping local organizations raise money for over 30 years to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. A local company helping local people, and there's lots of different ways TJ's can help you raise big money fast. Get started now at tjspizza.com. Hey, Columbo here for our family dentist, Dr. Matt Boscia at New Creation Dental Care, a one-stop solution for all your family's dental needs, including braces. Dr. Boscia uses the My Forever Smile Braces system, which straightens teeth many times in less than a year for half the price of traditional braces. Traditional braces or Invisalign can cost $6,000 or more, but Dr. Boscia only charges $29.98 for My Forever Smile, and incentives and insurance can lower the price even more, plus New Creation offers in-office financing. Learn more at newcreationdentalcare.com.
Hey, it's Katie. We here at News Talk STL really appreciate the growth in our business during our first 18 months since we signed on the air. We appreciate the great local businesses like Save Money with Doug Voss, Crypto World, and the Natural Institute of Health that have all become part of our family of advertising partners. If your business is interested in becoming part of the News Talk STL family, simply send an email to info@newstalkstl.com. 1019-941 News Talk STL.
Hey, Columbo here, and many of you know that one of my favorite things to do when I have some free time is to get out on the water and go fishing. And the folks at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton are the people you should see before your next fishing trip. No matter what you're fishing for, they have everything you need, from gear to lures to live bait. Plus, they can even set you up on a guided fishing tour on the Mississippi River. Make sure the tackle box is ready for your next trip by visiting Bluff City Outdoors at 2813 East Broadway in Alton and bluffcityoutdoors.com.
News, analysis, opinion.
Dealing with the debt ceiling is their constitutional responsibility.
I would not be concerned about a financial crisis.
This is News Talk STL.
We're executing a comprehensive strategy to secure our borders.
He takes this very seriously when it comes to classified documents.
I have no regrets. I'm following what the lawyers have told me they want me to do.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
What's happening right now?
And newstalkstl.com.
On The Bottom Line. Plus, Elizabeth McDonald is breaking the biggest stories at a new time. The Evening Edit. Weeknights at 5 p.m. Eastern. Some networks may just be invested in Wall Street, but at Fox Business, we're invested in you.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1 and newstalkstl.com. Listen anytime.
It happens
anywhere. Everywhere.
Every day continues to bring more news.
With the News Talk STL app. Keep St. Louis's home for conservative talk with you wherever you go. Download the News Talk STL app in the App Store or at newstalkstl.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Michael's Flooring Outlet is a locally owned and operated family business for more than 28 years, featuring exclusive products, unbeatable prices, and expert installation. You can choose from a wide variety of flooring options, including carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, luxury vinyl, natural stone, plus many other options. And you'll gain a peace of mind knowing that your flooring and carpet installation will be done right the first time when you hire the experts at Michael's. You can shop in-store at one of their 3 convenient locations or shop from home online. Check out everything Michael's Flooring has to offer at igotfloored.com.
It's Proctor spelled like doctor for custom window fabrics and shutters. Upgrade or start from scratch. Either way, Michael is the St. Louis expert. Check him out at proctordrapery.com and then call Proctor spelled like doctor for shutters, shades, and draperies.
Proctor Drapery, the best in town. No finer window fashion can be found. Call for an appointment at your home. Spell Proctor like doctor.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for children and teens. Hospital and doctor visits, prescriptions, shots, and more are covered. That's peace of mind for parents if a child is sick or gets injured. And parents may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if they've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
The news and talk that affects St. Louis.
Classified documents in my home.
To appoint special counsel. This is 1019 and 94.1.
Mass humanity coming across the border.
Negotiation over the debt ceiling.
News Talk STL.
Bill O'Reilly here, and I'm warming up. Stand by for the O'Reilly Update Morning Edition. But first, many timeshare owners upset their yearly dues continue to increase. Lone Star Transfer is the only company you can trust guaranteeing the release of all liability to your timeshare in writing and in a specific time frame. They've helped more than 18,000 owners legally and permanently get out. So start off the new year right with a free no-obligation consultation, 855-551-7066 or LoneStarTransfer.com, LoneStarTransfer.com. On this Tuesday over the weekend, I watched the 1961 movie Judgment at Nuremberg, a brilliant film with a powerful message for today's America. Spencer Tracy stars as an American judge heading a tribunal, hearing evidence against 4 Nazi judges. Tracy is under enormous pressure to give light sentences to the Germans, each of whom allowed crimes against humanity. Their defense was they were operating under the law imposed by the Third Reich. They had no choice. The Nazis, in the end, are sentenced to life, and Tracy explains the dignity of the decision by defining what true justice really is. It's supposed to ignore politics and favoritism. The mandate is punishment must fit the crime. Rationalizations are no excuse for hurting people. Today in America, the justice system is falling apart. We routinely see prosecutors fail to protect us from guilty criminals. We're witnessing a politicized FBI and Attorney General. Honest outcomes in criminal courts are increasingly in doubt, as guilty people often walk free. The same is true in civil court, where legions of dishonest lawyers try to destroy people for money. Rarely are these defamers and perjury accommodators sanctioned by the legal system. This is an incredibly serious problem. If things continue to decline in the American justice system, anarchy will emerge. Back after this. No question, there is a concerted effort to intimidate and silence conservative thinkers and replace our God-given individual liberty with big government controls. AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, is the leading conservative advocacy and benefits organization in America. AMAC gives you access to exclusive benefits and all kinds of great content. Please stand with AMAC at amac.us. That's amac.us. That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. More analysis later on.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Cloudy and chilly this morning, but dry. The temperature's right around the freezing mark to start off your Tuesday. The high today, above normal, 46 degrees on a southerly wind ahead of a system that begins to bring us some light mix later this evening in St. Louis and a changeover to wet, heavy snow overnight. We'll see some accumulations by morning of slushy snow as temperatures remain above freezing overnight tonight and remain above freezing during the day tomorrow. The snow will be winding down by mid-morning, but through the metro area, 3 to 6, maybe as much as 7 inches to the south. Heavier snow to the south and a little bit lighter to the north. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
St. Louis's place to talk.
Because that's where the votes are getting stolen. When you get into the facts and logic and reason thing, it drives me crazy because you're right.
I call it the oh my God virus.
News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. Having your first cup of coffee? Mike's on his third. This is Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
You want a society of law and order because a society of law and order ultimately is supposed to protect our rights, then you have to have effective law enforcement. But here in St. Louis, particularly St. Louis City, what's happening but law enforcement continues to get screwed and stabbed in the back by politicians from the circuit attorney's office to underfunding by City Hall. So how are they supposed to do their jobs? Yeah. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on today, because not just with what happened over the weekend at the Foundry and in the Grove and this overall pattern of criminals being told, do what you want. Maybe we'll go after you. Maybe we won't. Maybe it'll be harsh, but probably not. This is affecting every aspect of our lives, and it's affecting the entire metro area. I'm Mike Ferguson. Good morning. Thanks for spending part of this Tuesday with us here on News Talk STL. Congress and the White House are still butting heads over the debt ceiling. Sounds really wonky and economic and numbers and charts, but what this means is, how much are they going to have to extract from us to pay for their wild, reckless spending, because they won't get that under control? We had Rob Romano, the vice president of Americans for Limited Government, on the program on Monday. Actually, I talked to him over the weekend while the debt ceiling debate was really starting to heat up a little bit. And what you've got here is a clash of values. One side is saying we need fiscal responsibility, which is great. Republicans are saying that, even though they're not always fiscally responsible. And the Democrats are saying, no, we need more fiscal irresponsibility, because that would be irresponsible to be fiscally responsible. I know it really doesn't make any sense when they say it either. Anyway, here's the conversation with Rob Romano from Americans for Limited Government. Let's say you get your credit card bill and you can't afford it, but you still need to pay the bills that you were using the credit card for. So you can cut spending somewhere else and pay the bills, or you can go ask the credit card company for more room in debt. Now, it seems ridiculous that you would go to the credit card company and saying, you know what, let me pile on more debt so I can meet my ongoing expenses. You would find another way to handle it. That is the opposite of what we're seeing in Congress right now. I'm Mike Ferguson. I am now joined by Robert Romano, who is the Vice President for Public Policy of our friends at Americans for Limited Government. And Robert, let me just disclose, as you and I are having this conversation, Congress is negotiating what to do with the debt ceiling because this week our spending federally hits that debt ceiling, and so they have to decide what to do. My guess is that they're going to at least have some short-term increase of a debt ceiling to keep borrowing money to keep all the operations going. But the bigger pictures here have to do with the massive amounts of debt that we're accruing. And so let's start there. When we talk about raising a debt ceiling, what are the actual mechanics of that? And what does that mean to our finances and economy as a federal government?
Right. So the debt ceiling goes back more than a century as far as federal law goes. And what it sets is an kind of arbitrary limit on how much money the government can borrow. Right now, that's set to about $31.4 trillion. But the fact is, the way the national debt has been growing on average about 8% every year since 1980, it's going to hit more than 100 trillion by 2036, 2037, something like that, if it keeps going at the same rate, which is to say you have periodic recessions. Congress engages in counter-cyclical spending as they usually do. So right now we're about to head into one of those periods where unemployment might be rising and Congress will probably be pushing for more spending. But it hasn't happened yet. Unemployment's still very, very low. After the COVID pandemic lockdowns ended and the U.S. economy kind of, at least labor markets, came roaring back. So I think that now is the time to cut spending. House Republicans, with their newly minted majority, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, he owes his speakership to conservatives who conceded that he would be speaker in exchange for doing something specific to this debt ceiling that's coming up. So I expect to see something along the lines of 2011 Boehner Tea Party sequestration. They leveraged Barack Obama, who was then president, on the debt ceiling and managed to save hundreds of billions of dollars by freezing discretionary defense and non-defense spending. And I expect something like that can be negotiated here. Whereas in 2011, Democrats had 53 senators. Right now, they only have 50 or 51 if you want to still count Kirsten Sinema. So I think that this gives Republicans, especially if they're united, the ability to actually get something done here.
Now, one of the arguments being made from Chuck Schumer and among many others is saying it would be irresponsible to not raise the debt ceiling so that we can fund government operations. And whenever something like that is said, there's always somebody, frankly, like us, who says, wait a minute, the high spending with money you don't actually have causes the problem. So where's the line between fiscal responsibility and a responsibility to keep government programs that people depend on going, even if we can't afford them?
Well, I think the debt ceiling is most likely going to be increased because it always has been. 100% of the time for more than a century, Congress always eventually increases the limit. Now, what you do between now and then is extraordinary measures, quote unquote. That's what the U.S. Treasury will do. They will refinance the existing debt up to the limit, which is to say they could sell it to the Fed. If when these Treasury bills expire, they can sell more up to the limit. So there's a certain amount of treasuries that are basically expiring every single week, and then they can buy that many more treasuries. And then there's other things they can do with the trust funds. Suffice to say, they could probably do that for weeks or months. Kevin McCarthy seems to think he has about 6 months to talk this out with Joe Biden in the White House. I think that they're going to have to negotiate because in a bicameral legislature, when he doesn't have a majority, Biden, in the House, he has to deal with the House as it is. The House does not need to pass a debt ceiling ever again. As a matter of fact, we could do things totally differently, but we probably won't get to that point because it's really easy to do what his old boss, Barack Obama, did and just say, oh yeah, let's freeze spending for a year.
We're visiting with Robert Romano from Americans for Limited Government. Robert, break this down for why this matters to all of us. I mean, we hear huge numbers, trillions of dollars, different percentages, and people look at this as an ethical and a fiscal responsibility. We compare it to our credit card debt, like I started a few minutes ago. But a lot of people say, how does this actually affect me? Why is this so important wherever it is that I live in the country? Why does this matter to us?
Because the last recession was a hydrogen bomb or an asteroid hitting the global economy. Everything locked down, and the U.S. government printed and borrowed and spent more than $6 trillion, adding that to the M2 money supply. And you had too much money, and at the same time, we did a production halt globally, and we told people to stay home. We told the factories to shut down. So you had too much money, literally chasing too few goods, which were not produced in much of 2020. And then when demand kicked up, predictably, you printed $6 trillion by sending checks to every single household in America. For goodness sake, of course, the demand was that was why they did it. They wanted to offset the aggregate demand, the loss of aggregate demand from shutting down all the factories and everything. So I think they needed to obviously reopen the economy much, much sooner, but it also means they never needed to do the 2021 stimulus. If you want to just say the CARES Act with Trump in the White House and the Democrats in the House, that was kind of a bipartisan thing. And maybe that was necessary because nobody knew how bad COVID was going to be. If you recall back in March and April when they were doing that, of 2020, no one really knew how high the death rate would actually end up being. And fortunately, whatever's kicking around now is much less deadly than what was going around in 2020. So you could kind of justify that spending and say, but we needed to stop. And now we need to roll it back. So you had an Inflation Reduction Act, you had a ton of green spending. There's a few things Republicans can do to, I think, achieve concessions that will satisfy their base, get discretionary spending under control. And, it actually would probably help Joe Biden politically to have a kind of a triangulating fiscal conservative, kind of feather in his cap heading into 2024. I think he has an incentive to deal. I think eventually he'll have to deal because House Republicans are talking a tough game right now.
And cutting spending is usually not popular with those whose favorite programs are being cut. Can we get from where we are right now to a more stable foundation of an economy with whatever cuts are necessary and not feel too much pain? Or is it just a matter of we've been so irresponsible nationally that getting from where we are now to a more responsible place is going to have some bumps and bruises?
I think that the national debt poses an emergency, a national emergency, although I don't think a president's ever declared one for the debt, but it's going to get there. You look at the sovereign debt crises and what happens when interest rates rise precipitously. Usually happens when they can't pay their bills. So Democrats will say, oh, this means that if you don't raise the debt ceiling, we'll have the same thing happen here. Eventually, that would probably be true, but that's not the point. No one's saying that we are never going to increase the debt ceiling by Congress. What they're saying is that in order to get there, they need to get some concessions. The inflation's out of control. If we keep on printing at these deficit levels of more than $1 trillion every single year, as I mentioned earlier, we're well past 100% debt to GDP, but we're going to get to $100 trillion of debt in a very short period of time, in just a few more administrations, a few more recessions, and these huge gargantuan numbers. And the question is, can we keep on financing that debt? If all the countries in the world want to keep on buying U.S. treasuries, the bureaucrats in Washington will say this could go on forever, and it probably could go on for another 50 or 100 years. But we can slow things down along the way so that at least the U.S. economy has a chance to catch up. And we're not going to be trying to tell people 20, 30 years from now, we need to raise your taxes because we have no way to pay the debt anymore. It's not going to go down like that. Defaults are bloody, they're messy, and you don't want to see it happen in the greatest country in the world when things are so destabilized geopolitically. So I think that getting things under control is in the national interest, it's in America's interest, and frankly, it's in the world's interest that the U.S. government's full faith and credit will never be questioned because we weren't so foolish as to spend all of our money before we had it.
All right. The article that Robert wrote is called White House Demands Rubber Stamp for Increasing $31.4 trillion Debt Ceiling as House Republicans Demand Spending Cuts. And we can find that where, Robert?
dailytorch.com.
All right. Robert Romano from Americans for Limited Government. Hey, appreciate the insight and the update.
No problem.
Your News Talk STL News Roundup coming your way in just about 4 minutes right here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. only on News Talk STL. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
St. Louis, it's Joe Pags. Proud to be part of the News Talk STL lineup. Every weeknight from 7 to 10, we'll get together to talk about what's going on. News, analysis, opinion. You won't hear anything like it in St. Louis. The Joe Pags Show, every weeknight at 7 on News Talk STL. Welcome home.
If you believe Brandon and the supply chain issues are still in crisis, or even if you don't, hurry into Southern Armory, your Second Amendment headquarters, for the best selection of firearms, suppressors, holsters, ammunition, pepper spray, and knives. Browse through our constantly changing inventory, order something special, or have us repair or modify that firearm that you've been putting off. Try our firearms training simulator. See the demo video on our website. Come into Southern Armory, 9901 Watson Road, 1 mile east of 270 and 44, at southernarmory.com. That's southernarmory.com.
Hi there. Hey, it's Tony Colombo inviting you to join me for a great show coming to Westport Playhouse for 2 consecutive nights, February 3rd and 4th. The Retro Nerds present a tribute to Sting and Peter Gabriel. Support local music and come see a great show at the beautiful, newly reopened Westport Playhouse. Enjoy the music of Sting and Peter Gabriel on both Friday and Saturday night, February 3rd and 4th, brought to you by Amicus Wealth Partners. Get more info and your tickets now at westportplayhouse.com.
Life insurance is one of those things that just about everybody needs, but few people actually have. Hey, if you die unexpectedly without life insurance, guess what? You'll leave your family with even a bigger mess. Life insurance will help replace your family's income. It'll help cover burial expenses. Life insurance can even help pay off debt like credit cards and medical bills. Life insurance can even pay for college. And if you own a business and you die, life insurance can help your business from collapsing. It can even help cover estate taxes. Life insurance has never been more affordable and needed. Plus, you can always shop around even if you have a plan and save some money. So call the Life Insurance Quote Line right now for free pricing information.
800-979-3060. 800-979-3060. 800-979-3060. That's 800-979-3060.
Chris Domine is a husband and a father. Chris is an athlete. Chris is even an Iron Man. But 10 years ago, Chris was facing a very different story because his kidneys were failing.
Basically, the doctor said, if you don't get a kidney transplant and if you don't do dialysis, you are going to die.
Fortunately, Chris received a second chance at life, made possible by an organ donor.
You know, your well-being changes from loss of hope to better times ahead.
More than 100 million people in America are registered organ, eye, and tissue donors. People of every age and ethnicity, because they believe it's the right thing to do. Imagine what you can make possible by leaving behind the gift of life. Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
Subscribe and watch your favorite News Talk STL shows. Mike Ferguson in the morning, The Vic Porcelli Show, Colombo and Katie, Jones and Arps. Webcam streaming on Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. Subscribe and watch News Talk STL. Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
We now know there was more crime than we realized Friday and Saturday at some really popular entertainment districts in St. Louis City. I've got the update. Listen, it's time just to, well, it's frankly past time to seriously now discuss whether anybody should be in downtown St. Louis at night anymore. And I know that makes a lot of people cringe, and there's a lot of people in St. Louis County and St. Charles County going, well, I don't go down there anyway. What do I care? First of all, I think you're smart not going downtown St. Louis at night. Honestly, still, this coming year, I don't even know that if it's not a day game for the Cardinals, I don't know that I'm going to go. Now, part of that is just because of my bizarre, sleeping schedule because of what I do here. But we're finding out there is more violent crime and property crime in St. Louis City than really what we get reports on. We're just now finding out Friday and Saturday there was just a rash and a string of break-ins, and it was not just at the Foundry. It was also at the Armory, which we'll get to here in just a couple of minutes.
And the Grove District the night before.
The Grove District the night before. So there's this long string of it, so we can trade talking points and cliches again, or we can say, all right, let's be real about it.
I don't like coming into town for dinner or going to an event, and during the entire time that you're trying to enjoy the event, in the back of your mind, you're wondering what's going on with your vehicle.
Yeah, and that's what you have to worry about. I mean, this isn't a new thing. This is a long-standing pattern. So, yeah, this is a talk show. We talk about it, but the same old cliche points, we've heard them. We've said them. I've said them. Let's go deeper. We'll do that. 314-912-1019. It is 5:51 right now. That's Stell. I'm Mike. Also, a little bit later here, another state gets the okay for non-citizens to vote in local elections. What? If Chris Arps were sleeping, he just sat straight up and went, what? Because that's what he does, with one of his jobs is fight back against non-citizen voting. But, another state says, local communities can have non-citizens vote. Yeah, this is a bigger problem people realize. Also, many reports, including one from Major League Baseball, MLB.com, say that the new TV voice of the Cardinals has been picked, and he knows St. Louis. Interesting. We'll get into that in just a little bit here. I think it's a good pick if it turns out to be true, and it looks like 90% I think it is true. But looks like we know who the voice of the Cardinals is going to be.
For TV.
For TV.
But, yes.
Right, that's right. For the TV voice for Bally Sports Midwest, which used to be Fox Sports Midwest, which, used to be something else, which, I remember watching the Cardinals on KPLR all those years ago. But
that's right. And Channel 5 a little bit, too. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I don't know if that was before or after Channel 11, but 5 had them. But that would have been back in the day when you had, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 games a year
on TV. Right, that was a special occasion. Then KPLR became like the home of the Cardinals, and then it went to cable, and then, the world became a worse place because, went on to cable instead of broadcast. Just saying.
Yep,
and
I agree.
I'm not biased because I work in broadcast. Anyway, all right, before the shots were fired at police at the Foundry over the weekend, turns out there was even more property crime than we originally thought. Now, we now know there was a string of car break-ins targeting vehicles. Now, we knew there was some break-ins at the Foundry, but it turns out there were also some across the highway at the Armory. And I was just at the Armory on Saturday. So there were several of these. Don't act surprised, folks. This is the norm. I mean, this isn't something that's new. It's been happening at the Enterprise Center for the past year. I mean, after Blues games, after concerts, it's been happening. The security right around Busch Stadium has been pretty tight. I haven't really heard of a lot of problems at that, but it's just a matter of time. And the thing is that police are saying they're looking for anything that they can get. We're seeing these smash and grabs in St. Charles County. We're seeing them in St. Louis County. Like I said, I talked to a police officer of Clayton, and he says that's what they're getting more and more of all the time. And you look at this and they say they are looking for weapons. They're really not even necessarily looking for, debit cards or anything like that. They're looking for weapons. Occasionally they find some. Apparently either at the Foundry or the Armory, they did get a hold of at least one weapon that was in the vehicle. I get it when you want to take your weapon because we've got a carjacking problem as well. But leaving it in the vehicle, especially if it's anywhere in sight, is begging for problems at this point.
And one other issue that I've run across over the past few years is you can park on the street. You can have an open lot somewhere, and supposedly there's security issues happen there. The one problem that we have to tack on is some of these happen inside parking garages.
Right. My daughter's catalytic converter was stolen when her car was parked in a parking garage in Brentwood.
Boy.
I mean, that's another aspect of all this as well. But in the city in particular, one of the reasons it's so concentrated, and we're going to get into this in just a little bit, and this is where I want to get really very real with it. Voters, partially this is your fault. St. Louis City voters, this is partially your fault. And I will back up that statement. And if I just offended you, then I want you to call me and tell me why I'm wrong. But we'll get in that conversation. Also, national politics here. House Republicans demanding that the Secret Service turn over visitor logs for President Biden's Delaware home. Got the update on that from Fox News' Jackie Ibanez.
House Oversight Chairman James Comer sent this letter to the director of the Secret Service requesting records after the agency said last week it would hand over its own visitor logs to President Biden's Wilmington home. According to that letter, Comer is requesting all documents and communications related to visitor information at President Biden's Wilmington, Delaware home from January 20, 2017 to present. Meanwhile, as the Senate returns today, Senate Intel Chair Mark Warner still waiting for a briefing and threat assessment on both the Trump and Biden docudramas. And now that we know some of the latest documents seized were from Biden's time in the Senate.
I don't expect an update on this story today, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's something later this week as far as anything else being found or any additional searches happening with the Biden home, which could very well happen.
Did I miss something here, or didn't they come out earlier and say there were no visitor logs?
Yeah.
And now they're saying
there
are.
Yeah, there might be. There might be a list of some kind. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're finding out here. All right. We're going to have weather updates throughout the day, but the forecast is still calling for St. Louis to get at least 4, maybe up to 6 inches of snow starting late tonight and into Wednesday morning. We are under a winter storm warning, so just keep that in mind. Blues wrap up their homestand tonight, hosting Buffalo Sabres. We don't have the final word on it yet, but Tarasenko may be back in the lineup tonight still. He's been gone for a while with that injury. Puck drops at 7. ESPN Plus has that game. All right, so the big sports news in town, though, multiple reports say a very familiar voice and a very familiar name will be calling Cardinals TV games this season. MLB.com is among those, reporting that Chip Carey, son of Skip Carey, grandson of Harry Carey, will be the voice of the Cardinals on Bally Sports Midwest starting this season. Chip Carey is a Parkway West graduate, and he has been calling games for the Atlanta Braves for the past 18 seasons. He was actually considered for the Cardinals game over 20 years ago when he was with the Mariners at the time, and then he just didn't. He chose to stay with the Mariners, I guess, at that point. But people, know. I think most people think of Harry Carey as being the Cubs broadcaster
For a few years, yes.
When I grew up, it was Harry Carey and Steve Stone, who were the broadcasters. But people forget that he's the Hall of Fame broadcaster with the Cardinals, and he was with the Cardinals for 3 years, 24 years, something like that. So it'd be interesting to have his grandson, that family line, back in there. But Chip Carey knows St. Louis.
I'm totally on board. I think it's a great choice.
Yeah, I think he would be a really good addition. So
Yep.
I think we're about 90% sure that's actually who it is.
Are you the type of person who loves their community and wants it to be the best it can be? Now it's easier than ever to do your part. Go to recyclemo.com to see just how easy it is to recycle the right way. Or if you already recycle and want to be as efficient as possible, recyclemo.com can tell you what should and should not be recycled in your area. Become part of the clean recycling movement today. It's the right thing to do. Sponsored by the Missouri Department of Natural Resources.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Senator Talent, good afternoon. Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show.
Something has to be done about this administration ruling by decree. The president just issues a decree that the student loans are forgiven. He issues a decree that the immigration laws don't exist and people can come in.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 3:30 on News Talk STL.
You know what I think Chip Carey should do if he's actually going to be the Cardinals broadcaster? He should immediately call 314-810-SOLD and get a hold of Rodney and Jen. That's because if you're moving to town, you want to get the best dollar for dollar deal, and that's going to be through the Wallner Home Selling Team with Berkshire Hathaway. Mike Ferguson here for my good friends Rodney and Jen Wallner. And the reason I think he should do that is because, sure, you can go online and find something and just give a call and say, hey, I want to buy this home. Or you can get the real estate professionals who fight for their clients every step of the way to get them the best deal possible and get them the smoothest deal possible and get them just the greatest value that they can, and especially in kind of a rough market. Now, if Skip were to, or Chip, I guess it'd be Skip, Carrie, were to call Rodney and Jen Wallner at 314-810-SOLD, what would happen is he would get a completely objective assessment of the market and what the best deal is for him, because they're going to get to know his actual needs. 314-810-SOLD. You should call that number too. 314-810-SOLD.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
As 38 terrorists have been caught trying to cross the border this year, on top of the 98 apprehended last year. She asks how many terrorists are among the 1 million gotaways now living among us. Another question she has, why did the president make it easier for them to enter the USA? And this, out of New York.
4 illegal immigrants who were brought into New York City on buses from the U.S.-Mexico border are arrested for allegedly shoplifting thousands of dollars worth of merchandise from a Macy's. The 4 men, ranging in age from 19 to 30, are accused of traveling from Manhattan to Nassau County on Long Island to steal $12,489 worth of goods. The men were pulled over in a 2006 BMW with fake plates. 2 of the men have been living at the Westin Hotel on West 57th in Manhattan since they arrived in the U.S. Tasha Stevens reporting.
It's getting hard to keep track of all of the shootings in California.
Bullets flew at a gas station in Oakland, California Monday night, just hours after a gunman killed 7 people in Half Moon Bay.
Correspondent Jennifer King says 1 person died in the Oakland shooting, several others hospitalized in stable condition, and there have been no arrests. 7 people killed in the 2 shootings in the coastal enclave of Half Moon Bay. A suspect is in custody in those attacks. And police in Los Angeles County have yet to determine a motive in the attack at a dance studio in Monterey Park that killed 11 people. They may never learn what motivated the gunman. He took his own life after the attack. Well, it was nice while it lasted. While gasoline was never cheap, prices at the pump are on the rise again. AAA's national average as of this morning, $3.44 a gallon for regular. Wall Street Dow futures down 75 points. NASDAQ futures off 44. More on these stories at townhall.com.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance. For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-940-6161. That's 1-800-940-6161. Or go to SelectQuote.com. That's 1-800-940-6161. SelectQuote. We shop, you save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg is defending Germany against charges it is not doing enough to help Ukraine defend itself against the Russians.
Germany is among the
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Financial
Cloudy and chilly this morning, but dry. The temperature's right around the freezing mark to start off your Tuesday. The high today above normal, 46 degrees on a southerly wind ahead of a system that begins to bring us some light mix later this evening in St. Louis and a changeover to wet, heavy snow overnight. We'll see some accumulations by morning of slushy snow as temperatures remain above freezing overnight tonight and remain above freezing during the day tomorrow. The snow will be winding down by mid-morning, but through the metro area, 3 to 6, maybe as much as 7 inches to the south. Heavier snow to the south and a little bit lighter to the north. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Do you own an annuity, either fixed rate, indexed, or variable? Are you paying high fees and getting low returns? If so, Annuity General would like you to have this free book to learn the pitfalls and mistakes of buying an annuity. The Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers contains the little-known truths about annuities, like how to help reduce your fees and increase retirement income. And it's free. That's right, free. As a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report just for calling. We researched over 1,000 annuities. and summarized rates and benefits from financially strong insurers. You get annuity do's and don'ts for baby boomers and the annuity rate report, both absolutely free for calling Annuity General today. Hurry, supplies are limited. Call now.
800-649-8619. 800-649-8619. 800-649-8619. That's 800-649-8619.
Columbo and Katie.
On Tuesday, Crane Durham from NothingButTruth.com joins us to discuss the latest surrounding Joe's game of Hide the Papers. Plus, Steve Templeton will prepare us for the snow heading our way with a full forecast at 2:50.
Weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Gabe Pfeiffer.
We have a hope.
Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up.
What do you call a genius in President Biden's Homeland Security Department? A visitor.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL. Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up.
Okay, so how do we get a handle on the crime in the city? And I say the city, I mean, it's not the crime doesn't happen other places around the metro area. But we know a lot of it emanates from the city, even though there are certainly homegrown criminals in St. Louis County and St. Charles County and, in other places, Franklin County as well. You got some out there as well. Illinois side, I'm not even going to go there. So how do we get a handle on the crime in the city? Because it is affecting the entire area. St. Louis Mayor Tashara Jones says protecting the Second Amendment human right, that's part of the problem.
That's it, I'm sure.
Yeah, hear what she said for yourself at 6:20. She gave this, it was part of her speech at the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Coming up on 6:07 right now, I'm Mike Ferguson, got Gabe Pfeiffer here, and Stel Ponticus here. Okay, so I really want to dive into this whole thing with crime and the effect and everything around 6:20, but I'm just going to tell everybody right now, I'm probably going to say some stuff that's going to get under some people's skin. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know why? Because we have to start facing the realities and not just trading cliches and talking points on this. This is too serious.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, we know that a talking point is elections have consequences.
Yeah.
Which they do.
Yes.
It's very true. Policies affect real lives.
Yes.
We know that. St. Louis City voters keep picking leaders who do things that make us less safe.
Absolutely.
Right. So all of those are, I would say, probably talking points on conservative media.
Yeah. And we can dive into those.
Sure. Absolutely. So, yes, primarily, who do you blame for all this crime that's happening is the criminals,
Mm-hmm.
the ones who make the choice in doing this. But the criminals are responding to the support that they're getting from the politicians who are responding to the support they get from voters.
Yes. Yes. That is the proper way to say that, because the criminals are being supported. You can't look at what's been going on in our criminal justice system in St. Louis and not see that the criminals are supported by the system right now. And of course, where did the elected officials who are in those positions of power get their impetus to do these kind of things? They get the gall to continue to let criminals, obvious criminals, out of jail with barely a slap on the wrist, if that. They get the gall from the voters who support them and they know will continue to support them in perpetuity.
Yeah, and if you are just a diehard partisan, whether it's Republican or Democrat, and you say, "Well, I just hate what they do, but I'm going to hold them accountable. I vote for them, but I'm really angry at them." Shut up.
Yeah, that's the sentiment that you heard from Surfer Bro Uber driver when you were out in California, right? It's the same thing that we have here in St. Louis. It seems to be the same thing you have in cities across the nation, where these voters, they tend to be Democrats and diehard Democrats. I'm just going to vote for the D no matter what. I hate 90% of what they do to me, but we've got to protect this 10% somehow of an issue that barely affects me.
I don't know if it's a 10% still. I think it's more just the identity politics.
Well, identity politics would fit in cities across the country, because I can think of numerous instances where folks have tried to push back and Democrats automatically say, shut up and sit down.
Yeah.
You racist, sexist, homophobe, whatever.
Right. You
Yeah.
know, and I said, shut up. That's my pejorative. But, it's starting at 6:20. For those of you that I just ticked off, and if you happen to agree, that's great too. 314-912-1019. I think it's time that, it's past time, that we go past talking points and cliches. We've all said the same thing over and over. I've said the same thing that, the other stations have said, TV and radio, and whether it's the liberals on one side or the other conservatives around here. We've said a lot of the same things and pounded our fist and stomped our feet. So what do we do about it?
Yeah.
And here's a bigger question. At what point is there a fulcrum where we say, why are we trying to save the city if it won't save itself and it endangers everybody else? At what point do you say, we're just going to pull out? We're just going to take our business somewhere else? And I've got some more thoughts on this at 6:20. But at what point do you say, if you're not willing to do the actual serious work, which goes against your ideologies of your left-wing leaders, then why should we continue to help try to fight for a city that you won't fight for?
That's a really good question.
I can't argue with that because my wife and I made that decision
Yeah.
after living in the city for 52 years, pushing back and constantly trying to get stuff done and being told, sit down and shut up. We finally just said, okay, that's enough. We're gone.
Yeah, we'll sit down and shut up over here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and stop paying taxes here and stop giving you guys the support that you obviously don't appreciate.
Right. So I think it should be and I know it's going to maybe a little bumpy, a little bruisey, a little uncomfortable, but we need to do it. And we'll start it at 6:20. So get ready. 314-912-1019. And if you thought that was a little rough, just wait till 6:20. I've got more in-depth thoughts about this.
Yes.
I know people are saying, you live in Richmond Heights, Mike. I'm in downtown St. Louis right now.
Yeah.
Broadcasting from Union Station. I am in downtown St. Louis. Had to stop and flag down a police officer on my way over here because there was some guy hunched over on the bridge on 14th Street who was kind of leaning back, and I thought I was going to hit him. And so I pull up not 14th. Yeah, 14th. And Shoto, see a couple cop cars pulling into the public housing unit up there, which I said, hey, you got some guy who's like hunched over, leaning over the bridge, and like, okay, thanks. But if they're pulling in the public housing unit, they probably have something bigger going on than some guy who was just about to fall over in the dark on the bridge.
Oh, goodness.
So I got thoughts. We'll talk about that. All right. Another note here, and if Chris Arps is listening, I know he's going to perk up when he hears this. Get this. You don't need to be a citizen to vote anymore in some parts of Vermont.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. Fox News' John Saucier has the story.
The Vermont Supreme Court looked into two separate bills which changed the municipal charters in the cities of Montpelier and Winooski. They allowed legal residents who are not U.S. citizens to vote in local elections. The state Supreme Court ruled that voting in such elections does not violate the state constitution. These bills were approved in 2021 by the Democratic-controlled state legislature, vetoed by Republican Governor Phil Scott, but then the legislature overrode his vetoes. Federal law prohibits non-citizens from voting in federal elections. John Saucier, Fox News.
So this is when Chris Arps is out of the studio in the afternoons. This is what he's doing, is he's going around to other states trying to get them to amend their state constitutions to prevent exactly this. And so the bill basically, and there's been other places where this has happened, they basically say, or I guess the law now in Vermont says that in those two cities, Montpelier, which is the capital, that if you're voting for, say, city council, or you're voting for school board or whatever, that you just have to be a legal resident. You don't actually have to be a citizen, but they're still not allowed to vote for Congress. They're still not allowed to vote for president, assuming you can sift out and filter those votes away. So if that vote is happening on November, say there's a ballot question for your city, library board issue or something like that, that you're supposed to get the non-citizen ballot versus the regular ballot.
Jeez.
So the argument being, well, they live here, they're legal here, they pay taxes too, they should have a vote and a say in their leadership that affects them. What's the answer?
The answer is that's the privilege of citizenship. this is why you need to seek citizenship, and of course the responsibilities that come with citizenship are on top of that. That's how it used to be. Way back in the day, I think as much as they had problems in that they restricted the franchise to too many people. I think they had a certain reverence for the idea of the vote that we have lost. Absolutely. Is it, if you were registered, you had to be willing to join the military, get on to a fire squad, or do various acts of public service, and that was the cost of the vote. Now the vote is so meaningless that we're giving it away to non-citizens.
I think the entire election process is being totally stripped and destroyed by the Democratic Party.
Yeah, they're the culprits.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is happening in other areas, like I said. This is just the latest in this. And some states, Ohio's one of the most recent ones. And where was Chris? Was it Alabama or Georgia? One of those where he just was, where I think they just updated their constitution.
I forget.
Yeah, he's goes around and meets all these secretaries of state as part of the effort to get them to change the wording to not allow this to happen. So my guess is Chris is probably headed to Vermont. Probably at some point fairly soon. Of course, you can hear Chris, starting at 3:30 every afternoon with Tim Jones here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. So these are some of those basic safeguards that shouldn't even be up for debate or question. But that's part of the push, is to dilute the vote of actual citizens in the country. And there's no way that you are going to say, okay, well, you can vote in this election, but we're going to sift out and keep you from voting for Congress or president or something like that.
It creates a logistical nightmare.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And here's the other thing, too. This is how leftists work. They're going to push for more.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt. Because, hey, I mean, they live here. They're legal. They pay taxes. And by the way, I am very pro-legal immigration.
Absolutely.
We need more legal immigrants. But just because they live here and they're legal and they pay taxes and are law-abiding residents doesn't mean you get to vote for Congress. You don't get a say in who my congressperson is. That's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
All right, just ahead, we know St. Louis has a massive crime problem. It is concentrated in the city. It is emanating out from the city, and the city won't do anything about it. But by the way, somebody wants to call a community meeting because that's going to do something. I'll tell you about it, and I'm probably going to make somebody upset. Tell me if you agree or you disagree. I'm open to the conversation, even if St. Louis City isn't. We'll start that at 6:21 on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hey, it's Vic. Everyone here at News Talk STL is incredibly grateful for the growth in our business during the first 18 months since we signed on the air. We appreciate the great local businesses like Southern Armory, Rhino Shield, Steph's Pizza, and the Wallner team that have become one of our many advertising partners. If your business is interested in becoming part of the News Talk STL family, simply send an email to info@newstalkstl.com. We have a wide variety of affordable advertising options. And thanks for listening to News Talk STL. Welcome home.
Mike Ferguson here. Retirement should be a time you can relax. No more stress from work. But there's one thing you can't forget about when retiring. That's your money. Do you have enough saved to fund your income for life and keep up with inflation? How will you claim your Social Security benefits? And what about long-term care? The ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel is here to help answer all of these questions. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9, right here on News Talk STL. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Now, the Onder Prescription with Dr. Bob Onder.
I'm Dr. Bob Onder. There was a political earthquake in 2022. Parents rose up to demand choice and accountability in education. From Virginia to Dade County, Florida, to San Francisco, parents sick and tired of shutdowns, quarantines, wokeness, and poor performance voted out their school boards and demanded school choice. Missouri's behind the curve here. The legislature passed a modest ESA or voucher bill in 2021. but only for students in certain cities and counties and with strict income limits. And the program was capped at $25 million, meaning it would at best serve fewer than 1% of Missouri students. And Missouri has yet to protect women's sports or pass a Parents' Bill of Rights so that parents can refuse to let their children be indoctrinated in the latest fads such as CRT or gender ideology. It's time to pass these important reforms and, like Arizona, Florida, Utah, and Iowa, improve our voucher program. I'm Dr. Bob, and that's my prescription.
Find more Dr. Bob Onder at bobondermo.com. Free speech is alive and well in America.
Sometimes it's hard to know what's real and what isn't.
Right here.
The country is heading in the wrong direction under this president. We're suffering shortages. America's running out of everything.
News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion. This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey, this is Larry Connors. Make sure you're listening later today at 6 o'clock on News Talk STL for my show, Larry Connors USA. Now, back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
So how important is candy to our social conversations?
I don't know.
Apparently, it's not very.
Okay.
Another company gets a lesson in the market rejecting activism and wokeness, and they respond by being condescending and self-important. I'm going to explain at 6:50. I had to get a primer on what was going on with M&Ms. It turns out it's really dumb, and I didn't miss anything, but just really weird.
Besides the fact that it may be fattening?
Very.
Oh,
Very
okay.
fattening. 314-912-1019. It's 6:21 right now. Got Gabe here. Got Stell here. I'm Mike. Okay, so St. Louis Mayor Tashara Jones blames Republicans and their efforts to safeguard Second Amendment, I would call them human rights, as part of the reason there's so much violence in the city. So she's at the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and she tweets out this clip. So this clip she picked herself.
Okay.
To put forward, saying that, there were young people found with guns. One of them was converted into an automatic. And so this is a clip she accompanied with that tweet from her time recently at the U.S. Conference of Mayors.
We are blue dots in a red state. And we face challenges when it comes to addressing gun violence in our city. The state's preemption laws prevent us from using common sense gun safety laws to keep people safe. Further, our police are finding even more deadly weapons flooding our streets. More than 90% of the 2,656 guns confiscated by the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department last year were semi-automatic. That's up 75% from 4 years ago. Illegal modifications like auto sears, Glock switches, and lightning links can convert semi-automatic weapons into fully automatic ones, meaning users can hold down the trigger and spray bullets, emptying a clip in seconds. We've seen a 500% increase in these devices in the region in the last 3 years and are working with ATF to address the rise. In the face of these challenges, we're working to improve public safety in a variety of ways. First, St. Louis and fellow municipalities in Missouri are suing to overturn the Second Amendment Preservation Act, which prevents police in the state from enforcing federal gun laws at the risk of steep financial penalty. The risk is $50,000 per occurrence for our law enforcement whenever anyone thinks that their Second Amendment rights have been violated.
And that's the problem?
That's the problem, according to the mayor, Tashara Jones.
Yes, the guns, quote, flooding the streets are always, it's coming from those red areas. That you hear that from blue states, you hear that from blue cities, and they never really have any data to back it up except for the presence of guns. That's you need a little more than that before you're going to get me to agree to your premise, first of all.
Well, did you also notice that she talked about all the illegal modifications?
Yeah.
the illegally owned guns, but they want to sue to overturn the Second Amendment Preservation Act, and then complained about the prevention whatever at the beginning, saying, we can't enact our own gun control laws in the city because the state won't let us. No, the Constitution won't let you.
Yeah.
Because the Second Amendment preserves a natural right of self-defense. Why do we want to have guns with us? To protect us from the people that you are enabling throughout the region.
It's really wild, the constructions that they build. It's very much. I noticed this. It's kind of a pattern. The liberals have some sort of policy that creates a horrible situation. Now they're good at identifying problems in society, at horrible situations. They say, "Oh my gosh, look at this," and then they'll come up with a solution. The solution makes a new problem or makes the existing problem worse. Or most of the time, it's both. And then they'll say, "Oh, look at these problems. We need to do something," and the cycle continues. We're here. If you made a spiral diagram, we're kind of far down on that spiral, and yeah, that's where we are right now.
At what point do we say St. Louis City itself is just lost and move on? I know that's harsh.
Question.
I know that's harsh. I mean, let me give my perspective here. If the boss walked in right now and said, "Guys, we found a new studio space. We're moving out to the county," I'm fine with that.
Yeah, easy.
I'm really fine with that. My daughter lives in the city, and I begged her not to take the lease in the city to move in there from Maplewood. And now Maplewood's got things that happen there too. But as soon as her lease comes up, I ask her, "Would you consider moving out of the city?" She's a 5 foot tall, 110-pound fit young lady, and it's just not a safe place.
Not at all.
So I'm glad there are people fighting for St. Louis City, but here the fact matter is the overwhelming number of voters are picking people who are pro-criminal, and then they're throwing a fit saying, why do we have so much crime? Because you've got a mayor who enables them, a city circuit attorney, prosecuting attorney, who practically makes a living by making life easier for criminals by going easy on them. So you get more crime because that's what's allowed. The criminals know this. Not all criminals are stupid. They see an opening, they take it. They know that their chances of getting away with it are pretty good. So the string of property and violent crimes, smashes and cars, Foundry and the Armory over the weekend, Enterprise Center going on, the last year or two that happened after concerts and blues games and everything in between. And so if the city leaders and the people who are elected aren't going to do the hard work and the real work and crack down on actual criminals in violation of leftist ideology, why should the rest of us care?
Yeah, it's a good. You make an excellent point, because at some point you have to say the enemy has captured this territory.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to have a strategic withdrawal to a safe place in order to conduct whatever operations I'm going to continue. And of course, I'm speaking kind of war terms here, but really the bigger thing is I need to live my life.
Mm-hmm.
I need to feel safe in my home. I need to feel safe going about my business around wherever I'm living. I need to be okay with my children existing in this environment. And you can't say that about the city of St. Louis.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, still, I do care. I want the city to make some kind of comeback. I just don't know if it's possible.
I feel the same way. And I felt that way for years. Unfortunately, you feel like you're hitting your head against the wall constantly. Mm-hmm. And it comes to a point for a lot of folks where they say, okay, I'm done. I'll leave. The ones who stay, and we tried it for decades, you keep pushing and you get the pushback all the time. And as you said, folks keep voting these people into office, and it's nuts.
So some people vote them into office and other people vote with their feet.
Yes.
And that's what you did. I mean, I when you're talking about this, I can see kind of this pained look on your face still, not to get too personal. People are watching on video can see that. I get the feeling that you really didn't want to do that, but were you pushed out?
I think for me, I wanted to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Kathy wanted to go. And it took me about maybe 3 or 4 years to come to the point of saying, okay, I'm with you finally. Yeah, let's go ahead and make the move. Mm-hmm. Because I love living here. So much of the city reminds me of where I grew up in the Chicago area. So I love being in the city. Folks where we moved to constantly ask me, well, doesn't it bother you driving down into downtown? No, actually, it's okay. I mean, yeah, it's a long drive from where I'm at, but still, I love the city. Unfortunately, it just came to the point of saying, I can't live here anymore.
Right. At some point, the city doesn't love you.
Yes.
Because that's really what it's about, right? The people who run the city.
You feel like a jilted lover.
Yeah, exactly. The people who run this city, they with their actions, maybe not their words, but with their actions, they're saying, I don't care about you, city residents. So what else? What recourse do you have but to leave?
Yeah, I mean, look at the pattern in St. Louis City Hall. To go with what you were saying, both of you actually. Two young people are caught in the act of being involved in shooting at police. They've got weapons on them. One of them illegally converted into a fully automatic Glock. And the answer with the local system is, well, just hand them back over to their parents. I haven't seen a single report that charges were filed, by the way, in that case. And now we find out there were more car break-ins on this. And the answer that we're getting is those damn Republicans in Jeff City won't let us pass gun control laws when everything they're dealing with right now are illegal to start with.
Yes.
And then we're suing to overturn the Second Amendment Preservation Act.
It's amazing. It really is, because it's that guy over there does something horrible. They do something illegal. They do something bad, and then they look over here and they say, you need to be restricted because of what that guy did. Well, wait a second. Hold the phone. Why should I pay the price for a crime that you encouraged?
Right.
It's wild how they seem to think that they can get away with that logical construction. But the problem, of course, then comes back to the people voting for them who do say, yes, you can get away with that illogical construction.
Right.
I hate it.
Because you know what's going to happen when Kimberly Gardner is up for re-election? She's going to get 70+% of the vote.
Landslide.
In the primary and in the general.
What does she have to worry about?
Right, nothing. When Tashara Jones is up for re-election, you know what's going to happen? She's going to win with 65 to 70% of the vote at least.
Landslide.
They can go after, those darn dirty Republicans in Jefferson City and Springfield and St. Charles, all they want. They can grandstand for their leftist ideologues all they want. In the meantime, their city is crumbling and rotting from within because people are leaving or they're getting murdered to the point there's not going to be anybody left. Tell me why I should still be here to help fight for it. Tell me. 314-912-1019. And I do want the city to make it. But tell me why I shouldn't just focus somewhere else. Let's talk about it still ahead on 1019-94.1 News Talk STL.
This is News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton, and we're proud to be the official winter weather source for News Talk STL. The First Alert Weather Team is working hard to keep you ahead of the big weather changes and help you plan your day. So stay connected this winter with Channel 4 and News Talk STL.
From the News Talk STL newsroom, I'm Joey Vasovich. The 24-year-old Florissant man who struck and killed Metro East police officer Brian Pierce Jr. in August of 2021 has been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The man hit and killed Pierce, a Brooklyn police officer, on the McKinley Bridge while fleeing a traffic stop. The House held a moment of silence yesterday for former Representative and House Speaker Tom Villa from St. Louis. He also served as the St. Louis Board of Aldermen president. Villa died Friday of a heart attack at the age of 77. A 72-year-old woman from Caseyville, Illinois appeared in federal court Monday and admitted to cashing Social Security benefits for her dead mother for 12 years. The Social Security Administration eventually discovered the woman had died and determined they had deposited $128,656 into the bank account. Governor Parson wants to use the state's multi-billion-dollar surplus to give state employees a raise to offset inflation and keep employees from leaving for better-paying jobs. His plan includes the largest pay raise in Missouri's history, an 8.7 cost of living adjustment, as state operations are being stretched thin. And in sports, Chip Carey will be the new Cardinals play-by-play broadcaster, The Athletic reported Monday. Carey, a St. Louis native, is a current broadcaster for the Atlanta Braves. He is the grandson of former Cardinals broadcaster Harry Carey. For in-depth coverage of these stories and more, go to newstalkstl.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Cloudy and chilly this morning, but dry. The temperature's right around the freezing mark to start off your Tuesday. The high today above normal, 46 degrees on a southerly wind ahead of a system that begins to bring us some light mix later this evening in St. Louis and a changeover to wet, heavy snow overnight. We'll see some accumulations by morning of slushy snow as temperatures remain above freezing overnight tonight and remain above freezing during the day tomorrow. The snow will be winding down by mid-morning, but through the metro area, 3 to 6, maybe as much as 7 inches to the south. Heavier snow to the south and a little bit lighter to the north. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
When you're an innovative business, every blinking cursor, every blank page is an opportunity. What will you do with it? Will you make something better or create something new? Our Dell Technologies advisors provide you with tools and expertise to do incredible things. Because we believe there's an innovator in all of us. For advice on smart PCs powered by Intel V Pro that's built for business, call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL.
Research shows listeners prefer a personalized experience. So to help you remember, Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance. We personalized this ad for Amber, who really misses boy bands from the 90s.
Hey girl, I'm the cute one, here to tell you how Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
I'm the heartthrob. The only thing I love more than you is saving. And I'm the other boy in the band everyone forgot about.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
It might be hard to imagine, but there's a place where you can find a restaurant on every corner. A place where you can eat like a king for as little as $1. It might be hard to imagine, but this is the same place where the school lunches aren't just delicious, they're themed. With palate pleasers like Mozzarella Stick Mondays, Taco Tuesdays, and French Fridays. Heck, even pizza counts as a vegetable here. This is a place where the fast food just keeps getting faster. You can even order delivery right from your video game console. And how's the food, you ask? Well, it is to die for. Don't believe us? Just ask the friends and family of the 300,000 who did last year. Welcome to the state of America. Welcome to Obesity USA. Population 115 million and getting bigger by the day. To learn more, go to visitobesity.org. That's visitobecity.org. Brought to you by the Pennington Biomedical Research Foundation.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
I'm sick of all the firsts. It's after we had the first black president and maybe a couple more first. I'm tired of it.
Now it's the best person.
Yeah, now it's hey, this person is, I think Gabe said, this is the first left-handed transgender person with red hair thing. You know, we're right. Scraping the barrel now for first, so that it doesn't mean anything anymore.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 3:30 on News Talk STL. This is what's happening.
That Joe Biden had these documents.
Must deal with the debt limit.
News, analysis, opinion.
Classified information.
We will not comment.
101.9 and 94.1.
What's happening right now.
This is News Talk STL. Follow us on Getter at News Talk STL. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I keep posting stuff on Getter on my my personal one, which is Mike on the radio. I would love to see Getter turn into something bigger than it is. It's just not working for me.
Yeah.
You guys have any luck on Getter?
I like it a lot, but I don't think the interaction is anywhere near what I expected.
Same here.
I only barely touch on it because the interactions are so mediocre, because there's only so much stuff to react to. And it's just not happening right now. And I wish there was more activity there so we can add it to our arsenal.
So if you're on Getter, first of all, look up News Talk STL, as Mr. Big Voice just said. But also find us. I mean, I'm Mike on the radio. Yours is on Getter. Is it John Philosopher? I think yours is like STJ Philosopher.
Yeah, I think it's STJ Philosopher on Getter.
Yeah, and then you're going to have to spell yours because yours is,
Mine is Phineas Bruiser, but Phineas is spelled with an extra H, so it's PHINEHAS, which is the biblical spelling from, I believe, a section of Scripture in Proverbs.
Okay, so, or if you didn't write that down, go to Mike on the radio.
And then you can find it.
Because I tagged
Yes.
you
Yes.
on a bunch, so you can do that. So follow us there. I would love to see Getter. I think there's potential there, but for some reason, it's very dead.
Yeah,
I mean, people post stuff, but it's just for some reason it doesn't spread the way it does on Twitter.
Well, it may be their algorithm. It may be their algorithm.
Well, the one aspect of Getter that I like a lot is a lot of the live stuff that's on there you can access right away. So whether it's somebody doing a feed from somewhere, whether it's maybe one of the hosts on Real America's Voice or Newsmax, and they have a live feed that's coming up, you can access it, you can interact. That's fine, but stuff that you and I put up, I don't see much interaction at all.
I'm not. So if you are on Getter, find us. I'd love to spur that on because the reality is that we know that we're probably going to get tossed off YouTube at some point. I mean, you can find Mike Ferguson in the morning on YouTube. We're there. If you're watching us right now, hey, glad you're there.
Hi.
We're on Rumble. They're not getting tossed off Rumble. I love Rumble.
So do I.
News Talk STL on Rumble. I've got a personal account. I'm going to start doing some video stuff on Rumble myself. And then obviously Facebook as well, but Facebook is probably hit and miss as well. Rumble is really the best place to see the video. Eventually, I'd love to see our video streaming on Getter as well. We just got some technical limitations. Getter doesn't play as nice with our equipment as some of the other programs do. But yeah, Getter. I mean, about once a year, I say, okay, guys, let's try to spur on Getter. I would love to go get on Getter in the next information break and find that 3 more people have connected and followed, but I think a lot of conservatives ran towards Getter, said great, here's the alternative, and then had the same experience we're all having with it.
Yeah. And I would honestly maybe even put Truth Social in there, because really there's only so much a human being can do to access all of these different platforms, and soon you get to the point of saying, all right, I'm just going to have to concentrate on 1, 2, or 3 of them, and the others just have to go off to the side.
There's a limitation.
I'm actually not on True Social. Are you guys on True Social?
No.
I'm on it, but I never use it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's. I don't hear a lot of people unless Donald Trump actually posts something on there.
Right.
I don't really hear much about True Social. And Parler's a joke.
Oh yeah.
That was. I mean, I can't figure out how to get rid of my thing. I mean, every once in a while I'll check in on there, but Parler's just.
But sadly, they were the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah.
When they got totally destroyed.
Yeah. To be fair to Parler, they were destroyed by sabotage essentially, because they I think they pulled them from the App Store.
Yes.
and
And their
Amazon Web Services
and their server farm just kind of upended. So that basically broke everybody's app on their phone, and now you can't get rid of. Like there's technical issues that just. You can't get beyond it.
Yeah, because I stayed with it, and I actually recently updated my profile. I say recently, like 2-3 months ago, and I looked around. I'm like, there's not much here. Not much here. All right, let me go back to Washington, D.C. Actually, talk about some new stuff here for a minute. Peter Doocy actually got a good laugh out of Karina Jean-Pierre. Did you see this yesterday?
I didn't.
This was really funny. Check this out.
Go ahead, Peter.
Thank you, Karine. When you found out that the FBI had located even more classified materials in Wilmington, which 4-letter word did you use?
Oh my goodness, Peter.
Can't say.
That's pretty good.
Well done.
It's funny because when you see the video of it in the press room, the other reporters kind of looking around. Then they realized what had happened, and they were busting up pretty.
Touche.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and the thing is that's the laugh that you get when you said something that they know is true,
Yes.
but they can't comment on.
because you suspect that everybody in the communications office did say stuff he can't say on the air.
Yep.
Not again. So what he was asking about, obviously, the White House responding to Republicans' request for more information about that discovery of the latest round of classified material. Now, what's really interesting here, and I've got a report on this from Fox News in a second, is the White House is being very careful, and they won't say if there is or is not any more boxes of documents out there, if there are any more out there. Fox News' Jared Halpern has more from Capitol Hill.
The White House is not in possession of classified materials found at a former office and the Wilmington home of President Biden, the counsel's office said, in response to a request from the House Oversight Committee.
And stressed the importance of protecting
the integrity and independence of law enforcement investigations.
Spokesman Ian Sams says in a letter to the committee chairman, the council's office did promise to engage in good faith. A weekend search of the president's home in Wilmington revealed materials with classified markings. Sams would not comment on any search that has happened or could happen at another home in Rehoboth Beach. On Capitol Hill, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
So there's some circling of the wagons. There's also some legal advice, it looks to me, that is saying, okay, don't say anything that could burn you a little bit later.
Yeah.
And every response from Jean-Pierre is, well, I'll have to refer you to, and then she'll mention some, department in the government.
Yeah.
And every single response is like that. And finally, you have to say, stop the madness, Jean-Pierre.
He's like, what are you good for? You're the spokesperson.
You are the worst press secretary I have ever seen in the history of press secretary.
She is really bad.
She's supposed to be the voice for the entire administration. That's how I understood the job of the press secretary. It's like you're the spokesperson for the entire executive branch. Right?
Yeah.
So if you keep referring me to other subcommittees in the executive branch, it's like, well, what is your job? What are you supposed to be doing?
I'm a bit stunned that they haven't actually moved her out and put someone like John Kirby in there.
Yeah.
And John is on the left, definitely, but he's got a much more balanced and a much more focused approach to handling situations like this, where she seems to be totally out of the water.
Still, I don't think anybody wants that job.
Oh,
I mean,
you
think
could
about
be
it.
right.
This
Yeah.
is the Biden executive administration. Would you want to put yourself and subject yourself to all of the possible things that you'd have to defend coming out of that man's mouth, coming out of that man's administration? I mean, as bad as a job as it probably was dealing with President Trump's gaffes and things like that, this is 10, 15 times worse. And you also have the added benefit of horrible policies that you have to defend.
Well, and keep in mind, even under the best circumstances, I mean,
it's tough.
even if there's a president we like, that's still a tough job.
Absolutely.
You know, there's a tradition of press secretaries, right? That they gift the next press secretary, whether it's the same party or opposing party. When a new press secretary comes in, they gift him a flak jacket, an old flak jacket.
Nice.
And then they're supposed to write him a nice, good luck note to the next one, because it's kind of a fraternity of people who've held that job before.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we've gone a long way from, Marlon Fitzwater to Karina Jean-Pierre.
Boy, that's for sure. I never thought I would say I miss Jen Psaki, but maybe I do.
I will still argue that Jen Psaki was good at her job.
She did a phenomenal job. I mean, it's a crap job.
Yeah, and she's obviously somebody who I disagree with on pretty much everything.
Mm-hmm.
She'll fit right in at MSNBC. But, she could go toe-to-toe. John Kirby could go toe-to-toe with Peter Doocy.
Yep.
But at some point, there's only so much you can say to defend that is just indefensible.
Yeah.
And that's where they're at. Karina Jean-Pierre is just way over her head.
Mm-hmm.
Do we say it, Gabe?
I'm not saying it. You say it.
That she checked off all the boxes? Is that what you're thinking?
But she's really cute.
She is.
She's just like a little,
She looks like a baby doll.
Yeah, she's just adorable.
You feel like squeezing her cheeks.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
You're so wrong about everything.
That's it.
What's so wrong about everything?
Oh.
Do you want some M&Ms? We'll talk about that just ahead on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
We need change in our country right now.
Live and local.
They clubbed us over the head for 2 years.
Yep. You want corruption? This is how we get corruption.
This is News Talk STL.
If you're like most Americans, you can see things are out of control. Global problems have local consequences, too many of them. And if the next news headline spins us into chaos, you'd better be ready. Grocery store supply chains are only as strong as their weakest link. Don't wait for them to break. Today's the day to secure emergency food for everyone in your family. My Patriot Supply is America's largest preparedness company. Our specially packaged and delicious food stays fresh for up to 25 years in storage. It'll be there when you need it. Go to mypatriotsupply.com and pick up several emergency food kits. There are a dozen different sizes that average over 2,000 calories per day. As we all know, calories equals energy equals survival. And as you'd expect from a true preparedness company, our food kits are in stock and ship quickly. Those who know what's coming are preparing today. Go to mypatriotsupply.com. mypatriotsupply.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Is the path to business... In other words, people with big voices like News Talk STL, and then to kick them off the platform and attack them for barely stating an opinion?
Weekdays at 11.
You think that's an effective business model?
On News Talk STL. This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, 99.1 HD3 and newstalkstl.com. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
How do I do this topic? Okay, so M&Ms, been around forever.
Delicious candy-coated chocolate candies.
Yeah, just little balls of sugar that make you fat.
Plain and peanut.
Right.
Peanut is superior at me.
So they decided to, I guess, have their cartoon character marketing spokes candies.
Yeah.
Apparently, they did some woke spokes candies.
Yeah, they've been making some changes to their spokes candies. I've only occasionally come across some of this info on Twitter because I'm not really paying attention because M&Ms are M&Ms.
Right. It's just candy.
Yeah.
Okay. So they put out a statement. Mars, which is the company that owns the M&Ms, on the M&Ms Twitter account, showing that they really think that apparently they're more of a cultural force than just a candy. So I still haven't quite put my finger on what it was that they did with these characters.
The changes that they made?
Right.
My understanding is, at least on one of them, with the lady candy. I can't remember what color she is.
The purple one?
Yeah,
maybe?
I think it's the purple one. In the original design, she has little heels on. Because, I mean, she's a candy. She's shaped like every other one.
Right.
How do you tell that she's the lady one?
I don't know which M&Ms are male and female because I'm not looking that close.
Well, but the thing is that the character is voiced by a man or a woman, right?
Okay,
so they try to do a thing. So, it's like how a cartoon shape of any sort, they exaggerate feminine-like features, It's like, okay, well, they give them eyelashes, the bigger, rounder eyes with the eyelashes and then the high heels. It's like, okay, so that's a lady candy.
Kind of like California raisins back in the day?
Exactly. I mean,
those were great commercials.
Exactly. It's cartoon speak. It's like there's a visual language that we all kind of recognize.
Yeah.
Now they changed the high heel shoe to like a running shoe or something like that because they wanted to make her less feminine somehow. I guess like they're trying to make a statement. That ladies just don't wear high heel. It was some weird thing. I don't remember exactly how it went, but they started delving into this, and then they talked about one of them being trans.
A trans M&M?
A trans M&M. I think there was some discussion about a trans M&M.
Oh, that must have been what it was. Okay, so M&M's puts out a statement on Twitter, and it's funny how some of these like woke thinkers think they're so important. This is what they said. I'm just reading their tweet, guys. America, let's talk.
Oh boy,
here we go.
Let's talk about candy.
In the last year, we've made some changes to our beloved spokes candies. We weren't sure if anybody would even notice.
Oh, yeah, right.
And we definitely didn't think it would break the internet.
Lies.
Yeah. Did it break the internet?
No.
Not that I recall.
There was a large response by customers, though.
And they go on to say, but now we get it. Even a candy's shoes can be polarizing, which was the last thing M&M's wanted since we're all about bringing people together. I'm thinking, what major, massive news story did I miss when I make a living covering news stories? And apparently I didn't miss anything important, but you know, they go on to say, therefore, we have decided to take an indefinite pause from the spokes candies. In their place, we're proud to introduce a spokesperson, Maya Rudolph, from Saturday Night Live and some movies and things like that, who's very funny.
Yeah.
And so I guess I read into that a very condescending. Fine, you don't like the tranny M&Ms, we're taking them away, and you get a real life person who likes M&Ms and I guess just eats chocolate.
Well, I think part of the problem, and I think this this issue is kind of a microcosm of a larger issue with corporate America right now, is their marketing departments are filled with 20-something uber intersectional feminist types who think that now they have a platform to get their ideology out. It's not that I have to market this product to sell the product. It's I have to market my ideology while I sell the product.
Because you have a responsibility to use your platform.
Exactly. So because they were taught that. That's what they were taught in college. So now we're seeing that kind of the fruit of this because they're in their late 20s now. They're in charge. They're in charge of stuff. So they get to make these decisions, and of course the decisions keep hitting the market square in the face, and at least half of the market says, what the heck are you doing?
Yeah.
And I have to probably say that the corporate folks at the top are looking at it and going, wait a minute, something's happening to our bottom line here. If we're going to wind up being go woke, go broke, we need to make some changes. And like you said, you've got those the young 20s coming in, the 40s and 50s that are in the executive offices are now, I believe, are now looking at the company and thinking, no, we don't want to go in this direction. We need to stop it.
At one point, they were the cowards in the room, honestly, the 40s, the 50s, and 60s, the CEOs. They're the ones kowtowing and making apologies and things like that. I think because they were convinced that all of the Twitter drama that was being perpetuated by the lefties, the crazy lefties who were going on and on about you have a responsibility to say something and blah, blah. And of course, they're getting that pressure from their marketing departments like, hey, this is gonna impact us. They believed all that garbage, and so then they acquiesced. And now they're seeing the real consequence. The real consequence is money in the toilet. That's what, and they're like, whoa. I think we need to reevaluate. So that's why they're, I think, retiring the spokes candies.
So, and I mean, I remember the M&Ms, the two M&Ms characters with the Santa Claus commercial and all that. I mean, they're just funny commercials. And I've got a radical thought on this. Businesses, just do business.
Sell stuff.
Sell stuff. Your job is not to use your platform for social justice change. Your job is to sell stuff and turn a profit for your investors and for your employees. I mean, that's your job. I mean, your job is to make money.
And in the meantime, provide a decent product for the rest of us. I mean, that's why we would pay you. That's why you can pay all the people that you owe money.
Right.
And didn't Skittles go through something like this? And then I haven't heard anything about it over the last year or so.
I think Skittles was more of an actual product thing, because I think they took out a flavor or something, and we got mad about it, and they put it back.
Now that's worth getting mad over.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not a big boycotter. There are some companies, Starbucks and some others, I say you've just gone too far. I don't want to give you my money. You want to buy Starbucks? Have at it. But with this right here, it's like, guys, just sell stuff. Stop listening to the dummy kids who think that you must make social justice warrior-y stuff with every piece of candy. Come on.
Welcome home to St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
Democrats do what they do.
We choose truth over facts.
News, analysis, and opinion.
Classified top secret documents.
Prior to an election, they kept it secret.
We will not comment.
Sitting in the garage behind a Corvette. This is why there's such hypocrisy.
Raise the debt ceiling. Congress must deal with the debt limit.
Consequences for the country are a major economic crash.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hey, Columbo here for our family dentist, Dr. Matt Boscia at New Creation Dental Care, a one-stop solution for all your family's dental needs, including braces. Dr. Boscia uses the My Forever Smile Braces system, which straightens teeth many times in less than a year for half the price of traditional braces. Traditional braces or Invisalign can cost $6,000 or more, but Dr. Boscia only charges $29.98 for My Forever Smile, and incentives and insurance can lower the price even more, plus New Creation offers in-office financing. Learn more at newcreationdentalcare.com. Hey, it's Tony Colombo inviting you to join me for a great show coming to Westport Playhouse for 2 consecutive nights, February 3rd and 4th. The Retro Nerds present a tribute to Sting and Peter Gabriel. Support local music and come see a great show at the beautiful, newly reopened Westport Playhouse. Enjoy the music of Sting and Peter Gabriel on both Friday and Saturday night, February 3rd and 4th, brought to you by Amicus Wealth Partners. Get more info and your tickets now at westportplayhouse.com.
To battle is to fight, to struggle, to overcome, and ultimately for the Marine Corps, it means to win. There is no alternative. It's not just a statement of intent. It's a promise to our nation. A promise kept for more than 2 centuries. A promise of the Marines.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. The new chair of a House investigative committee is asking the Secret Service to provide whatever information it has on visitors to President Biden's Wilmington, Delaware home in the time since he served as vice president. Congressman James Comer's request comes as Republicans investigate Mr. Biden's handling of classified documents. Apparently, more of us would rather shut down the government than have the federal government hike its debt ceiling without any spending cuts.
56% of Americans would rather see a partial government shutdown until Congress can agree to cut spending or keep it the same, while 34% would rather raise the limit with no negotiation at all. 71% of Republicans and 56% of independent voters would rather have a partial government shutdown until Congress agrees to spending cuts or keep things the same, and 41% of Democrats agree with that. Respondents who make between $30,000 and $50,000 a year are more likely to say they would prefer a shutdown over an increase in spending. Tasha Stevens reporting.
The coastal enclave of Half Moon Bay, California, south of San Francisco, is in shock.
We grieve tonight for the deceased members of our community.
San Mateo County Board of Supervisors President Dave Pine on the shooting attacks that left 7 people dead. His remarks aired by KGO-TV. San Mateo County Sheriff Christina Corpus says right now more questions than answers.
The motive for the shooting is currently unknown. Through investigation, the suspect, identified as Chung Lee Zhao, a 67-year-old Half Moon Bay resident.
Meanwhile, there have been no arrests in a shooting at a gas station in Oakland, California. 1 person was killed in that attack, several other people wounded. Watching Wall Street, Dow futures are down 98 points. NASDAQ futures off 49. S&P futures 10 points lower. More on these stories at townhall.com.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance. For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-940-6161. That's 1-800-940-6161. Or go to SelectQuote.com. That's 1-800-940-6161. SelectQuote. We shop, you save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Cloudy and chilly this morning, but dry. The temperature's right around the freezing mark to start off your Tuesday. The high today, above normal, 46 degrees on a southerly wind ahead of a system that begins to bring us some light mix later this evening in St. Louis and a changeover to wet, heavy snow overnight. We'll see some accumulations by morning of slushy snow as temperatures remain above freezing overnight tonight and remain above freezing during the day tomorrow. The snow will be winding down by mid-morning, but through the metro area, 3 to 6, maybe as much as 7 inches to the south. Heavier snow to the south and a little bit lighter to the north. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by The Dental Link. Call Dr. Alan Link today, 314-794-6464, to schedule your free consultation. Offices in Baldwin and Melville, 314-794-6464.
Are you looking for the cheapest prices on car insurance? Then call the Cheap Car Insurance Hotline right now. Hey, you're guaranteed to save money on your car insurance. Most car insurances can be canceled at any time. That means if you find a better deal, you can switch right away. We're not just one company. We offer most of the major brands of car insurance. We're like a discount supermarket for car insurance. And it doesn't matter if you have a good record or a bad driving record. Our agents are experts at finding you the right car insurance for your needs. Our average customer saves hundreds of dollars a year when they call us to switch. So why don't you make this 100% free call right now and see how much you can save on your car insurance. Paid for by AIS Insurance.
800-721-5741. 800-721-5741. 800-721-5741. That's 800-721-5741.
This is News Talk STL. News, analysis, and opinion from the voices you know and trust. News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and newstalkstl.com. Mike Ferguson.
You play ball like a girl!
Gabe Pfeiffer.
I triple dog dare you!
Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice, drain the swamp, and take back country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up! Get up! This is your cousin.
So if you think the new Democratic leader in the House is going to be any less radical than the old Democratic leader in the House, and I mean that both in the terms of old as in former and old as in old.
Like meet the new boss, same as the old boss?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe from a different part of the country, from West Coast to East Coast. But Hakeem Jeffries is saying, you know who we really need on the Intelligence Committee for the United States? Eric Swalwell.
Oh, my.
Yes. Yes. He's
I
so
mean,
important.
yeah.
So important. Let's fight about it.
So,
whoa, did you say intelligence?
Yes,
committee?
yes.
No.
So Kevin McCarthy made good on his promise to say that Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell are not going to be on the Intelligence Committee. So just the quick 15 seconds of wonkiness to explain what's going on. The Speaker of the House has the final say on who's on what committees. Typically what happens is whatever the minority party is, right now it's the Democrats in the House, last couple election cycles, it's been the Republicans. They submit their picks for each committee, and then usually the Speaker of the House says, okay, they get to be on it. That's your pick.
Right.
Well, when it comes to Eric Swalwell and Adam Schiff, McCarthy said, no, these are not fit for this, and he will not approve them. So Hakeem Jeffries has submitted them again. So basically, he's trying to pick a fight with Kevin McCarthy, saying,
Double dog dare you.
That's right. Yeah, this is who I want on the Intelligence Committee. So House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has written to Speaker McCarthy, which is a way of putting it out there in a press release, saying that Schiff, who has been the top Democrat on the intelligence panel, and Eric Swalwell are, in his words, both eminently qualified to continue on that committee. And so Jeffries is now basically saying, no, I request that they be there. Now, when it comes to Eric Swalwell, and if you've forgotten who that is, he's the guy who literally ended up having an affair with a Chinese spy named Fang Fang.
Yeah.
And you can't make that up. That's actually the name she went by, was Fang Fang.
Right.
So
and she
Can
got
I make my joke? Can I do it?
Okay, do the joke. Do the
Eric Swalwell had a bang bang with Fang Fang. That's what happened.
And there it is.
There it is. Okay. But get this, last week when this was kind of coming to a head, guys, the reporters were trying to question McCarthy and call him out on not putting Eric Swalwell back on the Intelligence Committee. Here was Kevin McCarthy's answer to that.
If you got the briefing I got from the FBI, you wouldn't have Swalwell on any committee.
And you're going to tell me other Democrats couldn't fill that slot? He cannot get a security clearance in the private sector. So would you like to give him a government clearance? You asked me questions about Santos. You asked the questions about Swalwell. Not only was he getting a clearance, he was inside an intel committee. He had more information than the majority of all the members. Did you ever raise that issue? No, but you should have. You're going to tell me there's 200 other Democrats that couldn't fill that slot, but they kept him on it? The only way that they even knew it came forward is when they went to nominate him to the Intel Committee. And then the FBI came and told the leadership then, he's got a problem. And they kept him on. That jeopardized all of us.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a better answer to that.
That was perfect.
Yeah.
That was absolutely perfect because, and that's the other thing too. It's like he called the press out on their bad reporting on this whole thing because I remember when the story came out and it was like, yeah, make bang bang with bang bang, and it got swept under the rug, and we continued to see him on television as basically a spokesperson for the Intel Committee. And I looked around. I remember seeing for the first time after having seen the scandal come out, and I'm like, why are they still talking to this guy? And then I kept seeing him, and then I keep seeing his quotes in various news sources. Like, why are they legitimizing this person who was so easily and completely compromised by freaking China?
Right. And even though he's arguing still, well, you know, that made a mistake, he had the affair, it was years ago or whatever. Okay, at the same time, there are other committees you can be on. The people of your district keep electing you for some reason known only to them and God. And so you can go be on another committee. But when it comes to actual U.S. intelligence, when our biggest, at the very least, economic, if not geopolitical threat is China, you don't get to sit on that one, dude.
And I'm very troubled by the security clearance issue.
Right.
And I'm totally flummoxed as to what Democrats are even thinking. But then again, it's Jeffries, and I totally understand his perspective, and he's totally wrong.
They don't want to take a loss.
No.
I mean, remember, Congressman Mike Bost was on with us, last week? I think it was?
Yes.
Was it last week he was on? And the congressman said, this is how this works. And if you want to get some really interesting, I thought it was fascinating, how the security stuff goes with classified information. Go to the News Talk STL podcast and look up Congressman Mike Bost's conversation with us because it was really interesting. He said, you go into a room, you cannot take your phone. You can read the documents, but you check them in, or you check in and you check out, and they make sure that there's nothing missing.
Yeah, it's a closed library, essentially.
Right. And they bring it to you. These are the documents. This is what you get to read, and that's it.
Is that the skiff? Is that the one that the totally secure area? I think that's
that's the way, that's the way he described it.
Yes,
yeah.
Okay.
That's the acronym.
But keep in mind, Hakeem Jeffries is also insisting that Ilhan Omar be seated on the House Foreign Affairs Committee.
No. No. That's insane.
Of course it's insane.
Golly.
Yeah. No, these are totally mainstream. This is all mainstream opinions.
Right.
This is all standards. Like, I don't know why you guys are so upset. You crazy right wing, ultra mega, nutties over there who have a problem with Ilhan Omar and Eric Swalwell.
I've got problems with both of them.
Huge problems.
Amazing.
And to the left, that's because of the made-up word Islamophobia, which is actually not a real word.
No.
It's because you've got somebody who is clearly hostile to the interest of the United States and sympathizes with terrorist-sponsoring nations.
Yeah.
Those are her own words. And by the way, I'm not saying that's because she's Muslim. She made an appearance at a concert with apparently a very popular Islamic musician. There is Islamic pop music apparently, and she made an appearance and got booed off the stage in her home state of Minnesota about 8 months ago.
Yeah,
the video of it is, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, our Muslim patriots don't like her either.
No,
and that's the common denominator. The patriots don't like her. That should say something. Patriots of all stripes.
And then you go to Eric Swalwell. You don't get to claim racism or anything like that. You just say he literally got in bed with a Chinese spy. to say he's compromised doesn't quite scratch the surface.
Yeah. Like the speaker said, he wouldn't get a classification. He wouldn't get a security clearance in the private sector. Absolutely. And that would be, and you can say it's in the past and maybe he's learned his lesson, but that stuff lasts a long time.
Oh, yeah.
They look for a long period of time into your past to determine whether or not you are today qualified to be to get your security clearance.
You're saying they watch you long time?
They watch. Oh, you got me. Yes, they do.
I'm totally dumbfounded as to how folks do not understand the Chinese connection that exists.
Yeah.
And how dangerous it is. And how we see in Biden's corner, you've got the Biden Center at the University of Pennsylvania, and you got the other Biden Institute at the University of Delaware. Millions of dollars contributed from China, and it's as though Democrats don't even care.
I am troubled by the number of locations I keep seeing China pop up.
Yes.
Very troubled.
Right. Yeah. 314-912-1019. Letters of complaint could go to our boss, Jeff at newstalk.
He read it long time.
He actually will.
He
will. Yeah. All right. Just ahead here. Speaking of not just China, which you talk about China, then I think you end up talking about Joe Biden. White House says, yes, he's running again. A little bit of movement as far as how some influencers, and I don't mean social media influence, those with influence are approaching the 2024 election. I'll tell you what's different this time around as opposed to last time around. And at 7:35, let's talk about this crime just plague issue in St. Louis. Jane Duker going to be with us to give us her thoughts on not just what happened to the Foundry, but the overall picture to deal with crime in St. Louis. That's all still ahead here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Indifference. Stop it right now before you blow us all away. You wanna do that now? Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up.
Hi, Sean Long for STL Fence Works. For over 50 years, our time-honored commitment to quality, service, and affordability make STL Fence Works the go-to authority for fence, deck, and leisure space projects. During these unsure times of severe inflation and supply shortages, you can depend on STL Fence Works to meet your needs. Being the #1 fence and deck contractor in the state, we've leveraged our position to make contract buy-ins hedging against price increases. Also, our buying power has allowed us to stockpile fence and deck material. There are no shortages at STL Fence Works. In fact, we have more fence and deck material on hand now than we have had at any time in our 50-year history. Lastly, our commitment to a quality and customer-first approach has never wavered. Your project will be completed by experienced craftsmen in a timely manner, and our lifetime warranty reinforces that commitment. STL Fence Works warranty surpasses anything offered in the industry. Visit stlfenceworks.com and allow us to bring your backyard dreams to life. As always, at STL Fence Works, your satisfaction is our passion.
Hey, Columbo here, and many of you know that one of my favorite things to do when I have some free time is to get out on the water and go fishing. And the folks at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton are the people you should see before your next fishing trip. No matter what you're fishing for, they have everything you need, from gear to lures to live bait. Plus, they can even set you up on a guided fishing tour on the Mississippi River. Make sure the tackle box is ready for your next trip by visiting Bluff City Outdoors at 2813 East Broadway in Alton and bluffcityoutdoors.com.
Fox News commentary.
Get this, an ex-FBI agent involved in the Trump Russiagate probe has been indicted for aiding a Russian oligarch. You can't make this stuff up. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
If I could be you.
And you could be me for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way.
To get inside each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Plot twist for you, ex-FBI agent Charles McGonigal, who led the FBI's counterintelligence division in New York and was involved in the Trump-Russia investigation, has been indicted for conspiring to remove sanctions on a Russian oligarch with ties to Putin. According to prosecutors, McGonigal allegedly received $225,000 from a former Russian intelligence officer while he was still employed by the FBI. This is all too rich, folks, and yet another perfect example of why the FBI swamp needs to be drained, and now. It's really hard to have trust in our institutions when stuff like this keeps coming out. It sure seems like we live under a two-tiered justice system with conservatives usually on the losing end. This is yet another stain on the Bureau, a stain it really doesn't need. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show Tommy Lahren is Fearless at Outkick.com.
No big old corporate lib AM station telling us what to say here. Conservative talk for St. Louis. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Hey, this is Larry Connors. Make sure you're listening later today at 6 o'clock on News Talk STL for my show, Larry Connors USA. Now, back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I really didn't plan to spend a lot of time on the 2024 presidential election right now because, frankly, I'd really rather not. We just got done with the 22 elections.
It's too early.
It is too early, but there are a couple of interesting things I saw that are going to set the table for what may be different as far as the Republican primary race or the Republican nomination race. We'll get in that in just a second. Coming up on 7:20 right now, our friend Jane Duker is going to be with us at 7:35. We can keep doing the talking points on crime in St. Louis. And when I say that, I mean the region. But right now, it's the city where the biggest priority is. So we can do talking points, we can do cliches, or we can just get down to it, make people uncomfortable, including ourselves, and say what actually has to change, and what are the actual causes of this, and who's actually to blame. And that may ruffle some feathers, but that's what we do here. We're going to be a little different on the station. We have been for 18 months. I'm Mike. That's Gabe. That's Stell. When asked if Joe Biden is going to run for re-election in 2024, the White House is sticking to their statement on that.
I'll just repeat what the president said after the midterm election, which is he intends to run.
Okay, so there you go. That's going to keep, I think, the heavy hitters of the Democratic Party likely out of the race unless, there's a major change. So basically, they're going to stick with the scoundrel they know instead of risking somebody who may not be tested. We know on the Democratic side there are several who really want to run for president, Gavin Newsom being among the biggest names. I think J.B. Pritzker definitely wants to run as well.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if Jennifer Granholm, the former governor of Michigan, now Secretary of Energy, wants to run. So I think you've got a number of these candidates. Cory Booker, I think, wants to run.
Oh, again.
I take Cory Booker seriously down the road. Maybe not right now, but later on down the road. I'm telling you right now, this guy's got enough of the it factor. Maybe not in 2024, 2028, 2032. He's still going to be young enough. I think he's a possible contender someday.
Yeah, I mean he's not a bad looking guy. He managed to snag Rosario Dawson for a little while there. So there must be something about him. Something about him where he can get there. I think he's got to dial back on his theatrics.
Yeah,
but
stop crying, dude.
Yeah, I think he was looking for moments. He was trying to manufacture moments, and that led him into bad acting. So I think if he tempers that, if he refines that to basically to find a sort of Obama-like delivery for his impassioned positions, he may be a contender.
And you probably have familiarity with him because you were in Massachusetts.
Oh yeah, well I know of him.
Okay,
I know of him.
Right.
He was kind of an up and comer, I think, when I was there.
Well, and he's from he's actually from New Jersey.
Yeah.
So he was at Newark. He was the mayor of, I want to say it was Newark. I think it was. There's an interesting, I think it was PBS that did a documentary on him years and years ago. It's called, if I remember this correctly, and this is all off the top of my head, I think it was called Street Fight, and it was him being on the city council trying to run for mayor, and the corruption of the current mayor in the city hall, and his fight against that, and he was in this like dumpy, one-bedroom apartment starting his career, and so
Yeah.
it painted him sympathetically. I mean, I found it interesting. Of course, this is 10, 12 years ago. So if you look up that documentary, it's entertaining. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And now he's in the U.S. Senate, and he's far left.
Very.
But he's not the most extremist. He's extreme, but he's not as far out there as like a Gavin Newsom
Or Jeffries.
or Hakeem Jeffries.
Yeah.
Ooh, I see him as wanting to do what Nancy Pelosi did.
Oh, you think he's going to kind
Yeah.
of tamper it a little bit, or temper it a little?
Yeah, because you could argue the Speaker of the House is the second most powerful person in the federal government.
Yes,
I think.
I do.
I think he seems to me to have his sights set on that.
Okay.
And I think eventually someday he will be Speaker of the House, because you know what, Republicans are going to lose the House again someday.
Yeah. Well,
hopefully not in 2024. Hopefully not anytime soon, but someday it's going to happen.
That's how it works.
Yeah. But get this, in the Republican side of things, Franklin Graham was being interviewed, and he announced that he will not be making any endorsements in the primary.
Okay.
Of course, the headlines say Franklin Graham declines to endorse Donald Trump in the primary.
And he's just taking a neutral stance.
Right. That he's taking a neutral stance. He endorsed in the primary. I think he got burned by that because people are saying, listen, you run Samaritan's Purse, which is a wonderful nonprofit organization that it responds to emergencies and disasters. Obviously he runs the Billy Graham Ministries organization as well. And he kind of got burned by that, but people saying, don't politicize that stuff. And I think it's wise for him, and I think every other preacher, to say, you know what? There's going to be a clear-cut choice whenever the nominations are decided. But with Billy Graham, or not Billy Graham, Franklin Graham, saying, I'm gonna sit out of the primaries.
Yeah,
I think is wise on his part, but media wants to read into it a lot. Is there something to read into that?
Well, it's okay for Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and the others?
Oh yeah,
they're pushing the Democratic narrative and their endorsement of candidates up and down the line,
or refraining from endorsements,
or refraining. But it's okay on the Democratic side, and they welcome him into their churches. But boy, if somebody on the right does something like that, it's domestic terrorism.
Yeah, those words were used yesterday. I think that's what you were referring to, is that Republicans in the House were actually called terrorists,
Absolutely.
And
happens all the time.
But when it comes to that sort of thing, I mean, I think one thing that is surprising people compared to 6 months or a year ago, because it was just kind of assumed that if Donald Trump announces he's running for president, that the nomination is his and
It's
everything's
coronation.
it's going to be coronation. And that's not turning out to be the case. And you've got people taking some other names more seriously. I think I've been surprised at how many people have said, I'm going to take a look at Mike Pompeo. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I think the post Trump years are as long as we've been from his presidency, the further we get from his presidency, the less influence he has over the party. It's very interesting. It's diminishing faster. I think his influence over the party is diminishing faster than what any of us expect.
And it's not that he has no influence. He is still
he's still very
is probably he's the biggest influence.
He's
but I think you're right. I think for instance, Nikki Haley all but says she's running. She's going to make an announcement at some point soon. I think there are more people who said, I'm interested. Because there have been, for years, from when she was governor, before she was appointed ambassador to the UN, people were saying, boy, she's I think she could be good. You've also got some, John Bolton's not a serious candidate.
No.
Let's just say that right now. I don't know that Mike Pence is able to break through and become a top 2 or 3 candidate, but there are an awful lot of Republicans who really like Mike Pence.
Right.
Well, the Rhino folks like Mike Pence. I'm just being honest here.
What did Mike Pence do that's a rhino?
Essentially stabbed Trump in the back.
How did he stab him in the back?
Well, it's depending on your perspective regarding the legalities of what happened on January 6th. A lot of Trump supporters feel that he was Judas. I'm just being honest here.
I will tell you, and I know this may not be popular with everybody, but Mike Pence was asked to violate the Constitution, and he said no to Nancy Pelosi, and he said no to Donald Trump.
He had the opportunity legally to ask the delegates to take a 10-day period to review what had happened in the election and then come back in 10 days because it would still be before January 20th and give the response then.
But
and he totally denied any ability to be able to do that. But legally, he could have done that.
Well, but the Constitution says the Electoral College votes, the votes are counted on that day.
On which day? On the 6th?
Yeah, I mean, or the Tuesday or whatever day of the week it was. I mean, so, Mike Pence has been a pretty consistent conservative from his time in Congress and his
I don't think Trump supporters doubt his conservative aspects, but I think they have a real problem with what happened.
It's the loyalty thing.
Yes.
Well, that's it. I think it is more the loyalty thing. And that's, I think, what I'll challenge a little bit is like, he's a rhino because he wasn't loyal to Donald Trump. He disagreed on something in Constitution. Remember, because Nancy Pelosi was demanding he invoke the 25th Amendment, which was just nonsense.
Oh, to remove him.
Yeah, Mike Pence, who was leaving office, we knew, at the time, and he told the sitting speaker, who was going to remain speaker, basically very politely, go pound sand. I think Mike Pence had a duty to do. He looked and he did what he thought was the Constitution ordered, even though he was saying we're going to count these votes. I don't like the turnout any more than anybody else does, but I just don't get that argument.
Well, ultimately, though, the thing is there is a portion of the Republican electorate that views him that way.
Oh, sure,
and
absolutely,
that's
question.
Just kind of the reality of it. It's just like that. Well, I don't think they're going to give him a chance at all.
Yeah, and
that's what diminishes his possibilities of getting any.
Yeah, and I think that's why I think that's the main reason why I don't think he can be a top 2 or 3 candidate in there.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of power brokers who like him because of the success that he's had.
Right.
I think it'll be obviously the big variable is what is Ron DeSantis going to do?
That's the
what is he going to do out there?
He's the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Massively. Yeah, absolutely.
The Republican elephant.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, that's going to be a fascinating thing. And I think when you've got some early influencers, particularly among the evangelical vote, who are saying, we're just going to sit this out, unlike we did in 2020, which obviously there wasn't a real primary race because you had an incumbent president.
Right.
But in 2016, when some of them got in early, I think they're now going, we're going to sit back. I think the race is going to be more interesting and closer than what a lot of people realize. I don't think there's a coronation of Donald Trump. I don't think there's a coronation of Ron DeSantis. I think there are multiple candidates, and I think that can be a very healthy thing.
In the case of DeSantis, I see him laying low, as we've discussed in the past, and I'm wondering how much of a pull there's going to be from the electorate to say, we want you in there. We want you. We want you. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, and the answer is I don't know, but I think there is a significant one.
I think so.
Wherever he goes, he's pretty darn popular.
He's being
that's for sure.
Constantly inundated with the question, first of all, and the push.
You're also starting to see some of the his potential opponents kind of going after him. Which is like he's our friend. Wait, he might run. He's our enemy. How dare you? So he's showing that he is an incredibly effective executive. That's just I don't know how you can argue that. Look at the success he's had.
He's got a backbone. He knows how to push back.
Oh yeah,
and a lot of folks are looking for that.
I think so too.
And he creates he picks the fights. He picks the right fights, and he goes on the offensive, which I think is one of the things that people loved about Donald Trump was that Donald Trump would say, you know what, this immigration thing is crap. We should build a wall, and everybody's like, yeah, you're right.
That's right.
And so it's basically the same thing. DeSantis was like, hey, Disney's being dumb. Screw them.
That's
like,
right.
yeah, screw Disney.
And Disney backed down.
And Disney backed down.
One of the largest entities in the world backed down.
And the country responded also by cutting their value in half over the last 18 months or so.
Yeah, they chose Ron DeSantis over Mickey Mouse.
That's the truth.
A good choice in my estimation.
Right.
That's absolutely true.
All right, our good friend Jane Duker going to be with us in about 4 minutes right here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
You feel alright when you hear the music ring.
Welcome home to St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
We're executing a comprehensive strategy to secure our borders.
101.9 and 94.1.
He takes this very seriously when it comes to classified documents.
News Talk STL.
From the News Talk STL newsroom, I'm Joey Vasovich.
The St. Louis Public School District has entered the third phase of its search for a new superintendent. The 3 candidates going before the board this week include Dr. Nicole Williams, the current interim superintendent, Dr. Keisha Scarlett, who works for the Seattle Public Schools, and Dr. Jermaine Dawson, who works with Birmingham, Alabama City Schools. St. Charles County on Monday began allowing couples to get marriage licenses online without appearing in person at a government office, following St. Louis City officials who began a similar process a few weeks earlier. The Recorder of Deeds offices in the 2 areas are each testing the new system, which involves uploading IDs and is allowed under a law passed by the Missouri legislature in 2021. Real estate company Zillow recently ranked the top 10 metros for first-time home buyers in a new report forecasting 2023 trends, and St. Louis finished in 9th place. Research teams ranked U.S. metros based on mortgage and rent affordability, inventory to buyer ratio, and the share of listings with a price cut, among other factors. Rock band Nickelback announced they are coming to Hollywood Casino Amphitheater on August 3rd for their 2023 Get Rollin' Tour in support of their 10th studio album of the same name. Brantley Gilbert and Josh Ross are the scheduled openers. General public tickets go on sale Friday at 10 a.m. And the Blues welcome the Sabres to St. Louis tonight. Puck drop is at 7 p.m. For in-depth coverage of these stories and more, go to newstalkstl.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Cloudy and chilly this morning, but dry. The temperature's right around the freezing mark to start off your Tuesday. The high today, above normal, 46 degrees on a southerly wind ahead of a system that begins to bring us some light mix later this evening in St. Louis and a changeover to wet, heavy snow overnight. We'll see some accumulations by morning of slushy snow as temperatures remain above freezing overnight tonight and remain above freezing during the day tomorrow. The snow will be winding down by mid-morning, but through the metro area, 3 to 6, maybe as much as 7 inches to the south. Heavier snow to the south and a little bit lighter to the north. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
Hi, I'm Dr. Alan Link, owner of the Dental Link. You've heard ads about teeth in a day, but did you know that you will be chewing on plastic, acrylic teeth? Here at the Dental Link, we can give you porcelain crown and bridge teeth utilizing mini dental implants that function much more like real teeth at about half the cost. Plus, mini dental implants are less invasive, less painful, and your recovery time is much shorter. Give us a call at 314-794-6464 or simply visit us today at thedentallink.com.
Hey, Colombo here for Zero Res, a company that we have relied on many times to save our home. And it doesn't matter if it's carpets, tile, rugs, upholstery. Basically, every surface in your home can be Zero Resified. And right now, to start 2023, if you book a cleaning in the month of January and mention the Colombo Special, you'll get 23% off all services. Call and book now. Tell them you want the Colombo Special, 314-474-2020, or book online at ZeroResSTL.com. Spell it forward or backward, it spells the same, Zero Res.
What's the biggest myth about interscholastic performing arts? That you have to be the most talented or experienced to participate. The truth is, anyone can be a part of their school's performing arts. There are countless opportunities for students to participate, from theater, choir, and band to speech and debate. The bottom line, if you want to perform, there's a place for you.
This message presented by the NFHS and the MSHSAA.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
I think they're trying to attack the American people.
Live and local.
Gabe, Mike, Ken, you guys are my morning cup of mental coffee. I love the show. Definitely a convert from the old one.
This is News Talk STL. Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
So we now know that there was even more property crime that happened before shots were fired at police officers over the weekend at the Foundry. It turns out that the car break-ins were not just happening at the Foundry, they were also happening at the Armory across the highway. And Stell's pointed out within the day or so before that, car break-ins were happening at
in the Grove District.
In the Grove District as well, not too far away.
Oh, yeah.
We know it's happening in other areas outside of the city as well. But the bottom line is that particularly in St. Louis City, not only do we seem to have crime constantly, that's nothing new, but it's getting more egregious. Well, why is it getting more egregious? How about this? Two of the suspects caught with weapons, one of them illegally altered to become a fully automatic, were released back to their parents by the police under advice of the system.
As though they're going to go back home and be grounded
Right.
for a day or two. Yeah,
oh
right.
boys,
Right.
it's it reminds me of like an episode of like Andy Griffith or something like
Yeah.
that. And the boys were caught plinking someplace they shouldn't have been, and they got somebody's window, and the chief comes like, boys, and they wag their fingers like furrowed brows. They're gonna have to send you back home with your parents. And, oh gee, they lower their head and they give over their little BB gun or whatever. That's not what happened here.
Yeah, we're joined now by Jane Duker. Jane, I'm pretty sure that the two suspects who were released back to their parents after shooting at police, according to law enforcement officers, didn't hang their head and say, sorry, Paul.
Yeah, it's the second time in 1 week that somebody shoots at police and they get to go home.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating. And I also think, I'm even sensing the public getting outraged. They need to get more outraged because, last night was a very violent night. And I was talking to one of the members of the Board of Aldermen who said that, her neighbor, went outside to interrupt at, a car theft. And, the suspects, fled. They called police, and police basically said that, was anybody hurt? Was anything stolen? We may get there. When we can, but those kinds of calls don't get into the crime stats unless someone responds. And so, the underreporting of crime is real. And so, there's more going on out there than people even realize.
Jane, this is Gabe here. You mentioned that the public outrage is growing. Do you think that would translate at all to any sort of electoral change? Because we've been talking this morning about the fact that in many ways it's kind of the voters' fault for getting these people into power.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, the electoral culture change takes a long time. And so, I think I don't see a sea change in the city in the electoral politics in the very near term. But here's the problem. If the voters want the autonomous zone, that's one thing. But the autonomous zone is expanding. It's affecting the entire region. Every police force in the surrounding counties is strained because crime is seeping out all around. And so this isn't just a city issue. This isn't just, we're the city, leave us alone. This is, crime is moving. It's moving all the way through. You talk to any surrounding county and they will tell you that the crime from St. Louis is coming to their county. And so we're supposed to be the economic engine of the state. I don't know how that's possible. People don't want to go downtown, but a lot of the elected leaders don't care. You never hear them talking about it like, oh, it's a problem. Crime's a problem. I was very heartened to see Alderman Phil finally come out and say, this isn't working. Based on what happened at the Armory, they have a big stand there with a camera, but a camera does not deter anything. It doesn't deter anything because yes, they're going to be released. We're not even letting people out now. They're just not going in at all. Like the Armory criminals who shot at police and broke into cars, they never went in to jail to be let out. So it's very scary.
Yeah, it is. And Jane, you mentioned the effect, and this is why I've been trying to focus on this a little bit throughout the day, not a little bit, a lot through the day, is because those who live in St. Louis County, those who live in St. Charles County, you could even argue Jefferson County, certainly, East Side,
yes.
When the city's hollowing out, I know many people who are saying, yeah, I'll go maybe during the day, but I'm not going at night. And increasingly, people are saying, well, what's St. Charles got? At some point, I mean, I'm glad that the alderman Phil is saying let's have a community meeting. But what's going to change at a community meeting? I mean, what good is that going to do? Why won't people make the hard decisions and question their own ideology on this? I'm not saying vote a bunch of Republicans, and we know it's not going to happen in St. Louis City. But I know there are Democrats who care about the violence and the crime and the safety.
Yeah, I mean, it's shocking to me. I mean, when I look at the amount of investment at the St. Louis Armory, and they're letting it, get overrun with crime, I can't fathom in which anybody thinks that's a great idea. And, but no, I mean, you don't hear anything. I mean, do you hear the progressive wing down in the city saying anything about this other than guns are the problem?
Right.
And look, this is one area where we will disagree. I believe in more gun control, especially in the urban areas. However, you can't even get there because there's no credibility to talk about putting more gun laws on the books when you're not enforcing the ones we have. I mean, I have to say to my Democratic colleagues and friends that, look, you have zero credibility to say we need more gun laws when you won't even enforce the use of guns illegally.
Yeah, Jane, that was actually going to be my next question, is just having you comment on Tashara Jones' comments to the mayors. Was it a mayor's?
U.S. Conference of Mayors.
U.S. Conference of Mayors, saying that is basically the Defense Second Amendment, the Second Amendment Defense Preservation Act. I can't talk this morning.
I mean, it's a joke. Yeah. I mean, it's a joke. That's a terrible law. I mean, that's my personal belief. But we're so far beyond that right now that, and it's very frustrating to me because, my personal opinion, we need more gun regulation, but we also need to go after criminals. I mean, we cannot, it does not, this is what it's become. The second FAPA and gun laws, that's an excuse for letting criminals completely off the hook. That's what it's turned into. And it's not a viable excuse. It's just not. When you show that you actually are doing everything to reduce crime and put criminals behind bars, and, then maybe you can talk about that. But right now, when the revolving door is open, remember that during the end of COVID, there was like a 6-month period where the mayor's jail director said, we are shutting down the jail to anyone who has COVID, no matter what crime they committed. I mean,
I forgot about that.
Happened. Yeah, you forget about all this stuff. And, you forget about, the poor domestic violence victim who had boiling soup thrown on her, and the guy got out because he had COVID, and then the mayor trolled her on social media.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, you forget about those things. And so, it's hard for me to buy on to the whole gun thing when you will not even arrest people and jail them for committing violent crimes. We're not talking about pot possessors. We're talking about people who modify guns to turn them into automatic weapons who shoot at police. And what does that tell police officers? Well, it's okay to shoot at cops. That's what we're being told by the circuit attorney in the mayor's office. Not once has Mayor Jones stood up and said and told Kim Gardner, you have 6,000 pending cases sitting in your office. When are you going to process them? Because she can't say that, because even if the circuit attorney would process those cases, the mayor won't jail them because she insists on closing the workhouse because it's a slogan.
Yeah, Jane, we just got a minute or so left here. So, I mean, if suddenly, if for instance, you represent, police officers, obviously with your full-time job here. So what are the police saying that they want to see in an actual crime plan? Because you started off by talking about underreported crime. I suspect there's a lot of officers who are also saying, well, that one's probably not worth it. They're not going to prosecute anyway. Let me wait for something bigger to come along to try to get. I mean, what is it the officers actually want to see, not just in the city, but the county and the region in general?
Well, they want to see a regional crime plan, and that everyone needs to come together and, work on this in the same direction. We're also going to the state legislature to get state control of the police department. She's defunding the police by attrition. So last year, 190 officers left, like 50 were hired. So, and last year there was 180 that left. I mean, they call it the mound of uniforms at headquarters. It's terrible. So, state control. The legislature is looking at some things to deal with Kim Gardner as well. So unfortunately, we just don't feel like there's going to be a crime plan coming out of the city. Right? And so we're going to the state legislature to ask for state control.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a whole lot of people are going to disagree with you. You're just not going to see a solution out of City Hall. All right, Jane, we've tagged you on our Twitter, so find us and you can find Jane. I encourage you to follow her there. I mean, and Jane, you and I don't agree on everything, but you're spot on I think a lot of this. Obviously, we'll disagree on some of the gun stuff, but when it comes to having a plan and stuff, yeah, I mean, we need to keep having you back on. I really appreciate your time.
Anytime, guys. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks Jane Duker, everybody. Follow her on Twitter as well,
Absolutely.
literally. Last night she was tweeting out some of the screenshots of some of the scanner traffic on there. The amount of crime the calls that were coming in is just astounding. So she's a great resource on that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, 314-912-1019. I know there's some people, looks like, who really want to have a say on this. We got to do an information segment, and then we're going to get right to whatever it is you want to say about it. Let's talk right here on 1019-94.1 News Talk STL. May not be completely comfortable or PC, but we're going to do it anyway.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
It's Tuesday, and at 4:25, we'll have David Stokes from the Show Me Institute, and we'll dive more into this Joe Biden document scandal.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 3:30 on News Talk STL.
Hey, it's Mike Ferguson here. Everybody here at News Talk STL is incredibly grateful for the growth of our business during our first 18 months since we signed on the air. We appreciate the great local businesses like Clear Path Wealth Management, STL Fence Works, and Michael's Flooring that have all become advertising partners. If your business is interested in becoming part of the News Talk STL family, simply send an email to info@newstalkstl.com. Thanks for listening to News Talk STL. Welcome home.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And, with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have anybody to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
Talk radio made in St. Louis for St. Louis. This is News Talk STL.
Our responsibility.
News, analysis, and opinion.
To provide updated guidance.
At 1019, 94.1, and newstalkstl.com.
Hey, it's Joe Pags. Catch me tonight at 7 o'clock. But right now, back to more of Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
You know what's great about having Jane Duker on, because Jane and I disagree. Obviously, I disagree with her on Second Amendment and gun regulations and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the fact that she said, yeah, she's opposed to SAPA. I like SAPA, but she said doesn't matter because the core of the problem is not being dealt with, and she's 100% right.
Yes.
On that.
Definitely agree on that.
You brought up exactly what she was criticizing, Gabe, is that Mayor Tashara Jones at the U.S. Conference of Mayors, instead of dealing with, we got to get more prosecutors, we've got to get more police, we've got to lock up violent criminals. This is what she blamed for the crime and the violence problem in St. Louis City. And then we're going to hear from, everybody else here on the phone lines here. But here's what Mayor Tashara Jones, and by the way, this is the soundbite that she tweeted out herself that she's apparently very proud of.
We are blue dots in a red state, and we face challenges when it comes to addressing gun violence in our city. The state's preemption laws prevent us from using common sense gun safety laws to keep people safe. Further, our police are finding even more deadly weapons flooding our streets. More than 90% of the 2,656 guns confiscated by the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department last year were semi-automatic. That's up 75% from 4 years ago. Illegal modifications like auto sears, Glock switches, and lightning links can convert semi-automatic weapons into fully automatic ones, meaning users can hold down the trigger and spray bullets, emptying a clip in seconds. We've seen a 500% increase in these devices in the region in the last 3 years and are working with ATF to address the rise. In the face of these challenges, we're working to improve public safety in a variety of ways. First, St. Louis and fellow municipalities in Missouri are suing to overturn the Second Amendment Preservation Act, which prevents police in the state from enforcing federal gun laws at the risk of steep financial penalty. The risk is $50,000 per occurrence for our law enforcement whenever anyone thinks that their Second Amendment rights have been violated.
Yeah, so suddenly she thinks going to try to tell us she cares about law enforcement and the agencies and the entities, whatever. All right, Garland, you're up first here. You're on News Talk STL. What's your take?
Yeah, my take is that by the time you do the things she's talking about, you've missed the boat. None of these kids are educated because the St. Louis school system is horrible. They graduate with no marketable skills. So what do? You get a gun and you engage in the activity that all the people driving the fancy cars around are engaging in. The problem lies in large measure, in my opinion, with the disastrous St. Louis public schools. I went to St. Louis public schools, and when I went there in the 60s, they were arguably the best schools in the region. And it's been a downhill slide since the 70s, and nobody's doing anything about it.
You know, occasionally I hear a lot of people on the left talk about the school to prison pipeline, and they say it with a certain spin on it that we don't agree with. But I think we shouldn't discount that idea because it's basically exactly how you said. They're graduating people without marketable skills.
Well, there's absolutely a connection there. It's actually there's definitely, Garland, I think is definitely one of the factors that contribute to all of this. So, when it comes to dealing with somebody who's decided to take on endangering others and violating their rights, the city just won't do what it needs to do, but the school district won't do what it needs to do as well, and hopefully state lawmakers will do what they can do, which is allow parents to be empowered to get their kids into a better education.
And I have to say, from my perspective, Garland, you are absolutely right. I came here in 1970, and I remember learning about the public school system here in the city, the public high school system, and all the great schools back then. And that the whole system has deteriorated tremendously since then.
Yeah, I think the other thing is they have all this money from Stan Kroenke and money from COVID things. They should be out recruiting businesses instead of giving $5,000 checks to people. They need to clear out areas of the city. Hopefully the day comes crime is less. But they have to have businesses to fill that stuff. They should be out recruiting throughout the Midwest, looking for businesses who are unhappy where they are, and say, "Come on to St. Louis."
All right, Garland, I got to get to an information break here in about 90 seconds or so. Really appreciate you being on News Talk STL. I know that they're trying to recruit. A lot of they are trying to do that, but who in their right mind would bring their business to St. Louis City at this point?
Especially when you have options like Nashville, Columbus, Louisville, Lexington, Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. All of them on the rise, and here we are struggling.
Whether it's a white collar or it's a manufacturing or it's processing, any type of business with large scale in-person employees, if you've got the choice between Nashville, which is 4 hours away from here, or Indianapolis, which is maybe 5 hours away from here, you bypass Illinois. I don't know why anybody would even think about St. Louis. Now I can see them looking at Missouri, not Illinois.
Yeah.
But all these factors right now, you'd be crazy to invest right now. City needs it, That's why they're not going to get it.
Just got to make it attractive.
Okay, you go back to some of the debates that we just had, not just here on the show, but also the long, drawn-out debate over Kevin McCarthy. A lot of people saying that was damaging the conservative movement. That was damaging to Republicans. Is it? Reason Magazine's Billy Binion has an interesting take on that. We're going to hear from him just ahead.
News, analysis, opinion.
Dealing with the debt ceiling is their constitutional responsibility.
I would not be concerned about a financial crisis.
This is News Talk STL.
We're executing a comprehensive strategy to secure our borders.
He takes this very seriously when it comes to classified documents.
I have no regrets. I'm following what the lawyers have told me they want me to do.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
What's happening right now?
And newstalkstl.com. The Vic Porcelli Show.
The great Larry Connors.
Thank you. And then, by the way, everybody at the poker room's asking about you. They miss your money.
Second person to say it that way. Not my company. They miss my money.
Well, people are going hungry.
I'm hanging up the playing cards, Larry. It comes to a point when you realize you just don't have it.
I'll teach you.
Okay.
It'll cost you.
Yeah, of course. Right. More about taking money.
Vic Porcelli, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
When a child is diagnosed with cancer, the last thing parents should have to worry about is how to pay for it. This is a St. Jude moment.
Imani wouldn't be here if it wasn't for St. Jude, and I can't imagine a better place to be.
You know, it's a cliche thing to say, but I feel like my faith in humanity has been restored. The second we arrived here, we had food, housing, transportation, treatment, you name it, it was taken care of by St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. There was not a single other care in the world except for Imani, because St. Jude made that happen. The best way I can really describe it is this is heaven on earth. To the people who donate to St. Jude, I just want them to know that I don't think anyone in this world or anything in this world has given me a greater gift. We came as two desperate parents, and they saved our daughter's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. California has witnessed its third mass shooting in 8 days.
This latest mass shooting happened Monday in San Mateo County at two agricultural facilities. At a news conference carried by KGO, Sheriff Christina Corpus said the gunman shot and killed 4 people and wounded a 5th at a farm on the outskirts of Half Moon Bay, then killed 3 other people at a location several miles away. Corpus says the suspect is 67-year-old Chun Li Zhao, who's believed to be a worker at one of the facilities.
Zhao was located in his vehicle in the parking lot of the sheriff's substation here in Half Moon Bay.
Police have not determined a motive for the shootings. I'm Donna Warder.
The other shootings in California, gunfire at a gas station in Oakland left 1 person dead, and there was the shootings at a dance hall near Los Angeles that killed 11 people. Poland wants to get Ukraine some of the tanks it has been pleading for.
Defense Minister Mariusz Błaszczak has officially requested permission from Germany to transfer its Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine, where they can help fight Russia's invasion. Błaszczak also appealed to Germany to join the coalition of countries supporting Ukraine with Leopard 2 tanks, a reference to recent pressure on Berlin to send some of their own tanks. Germany has hesitated to take that step, despite Ukraine's pleas. Berlin has received Warsaw's request, Błaszczak said in a tweet, though German officials have not immediately confirmed that. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
It's not only big tech that's cutting jobs. 3M, the maker of Post-it notes, industrial coatings, and ceramics, cutting around 2,500 manufacturing jobs worldwide. On Wall Street, Dow futures down 149 points, and NASDAQ futures off 84. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Relief factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month.
SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance. For your free quote, go to SelectQuote.com. That's SelectQuote.com. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Cloudy and chilly this morning, but dry. The temperature's right around the freezing mark to start off your Tuesday. The high today above normal, 46 degrees on a southerly wind ahead of a system that begins to bring us some light mix later this evening in St. Louis and a changeover to wet, heavy snow overnight. We'll see some accumulations by morning of slushy snow as temperatures remain above freezing overnight tonight and remain above freezing during the day tomorrow. The snow will be winding down by mid-morning, but through the metro area, 3 to 6, maybe as much as 7 inches to the south. Heavier snow to the south and a little bit lighter to the north. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 3 times every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
Hey, it's Katie, reminding you to subscribe to our show podcast so you never miss anything that happens here at News Talk STL. Get our podcasts every day on the show pages at newstalkstl.com or just subscribe to your favorite shows on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, or anywhere else you get your podcasts.
Mike Ferguson.
This is the kind of adventure I usually have to force upon us, and here it is, falling into our laps.
Gabe Pfeiffer.
They're buying it.
Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
Why don't you pop a squat, son?
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up! Get up! This is your cousin God.
All right, I know it's been over a couple of weeks now since Kevin McCarthy was elected Speaker of the House, but part of that debate just kind of, percolated in my noggin here. And I think it's worth discussing because it's a much bigger picture than any one political vote. I'm Mike Ferguson. I'm now joined by Billy Binion, who's an associate editor at Reason Magazine. And Billy, welcome back to the show. And the reason I wanted to chat with you is because of something that you tweeted out that I thought kind of summarized a great point in this discussion. A lot of people were angry, people on the right, angry with the 20 or so dissidents from the party when they were voting no on Kevin McCarthy, preventing him from getting the speakership. And you pointed out that, wait a minute, isn't the Congress, isn't the legislative body supposed to be where you debate stuff? So is it a matter of practicality versus the ideal, or what was missing in that entire nearly week-long process?
Yeah, I think the operative word that I saw kind of thrown around a lot and people criticizing the 20 or so Republicans was that it was so embarrassing, not only for, the Republican Party, but also for the country as a whole. And I just fundamentally reject that. I will start off by saying that I am I write for a libertarian magazine, but I have never considered myself really part of the right. I feel very politically homeless at home in neither political party. And I have certainly never been a big fan of people like Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert, who I think oftentimes are just kind of doing the politics of performance. They're trying to get attention, that sort of thing. And so I think it is easy to kind of interpret what happened with the speaker debate as through that lens, but I actually think that that's wrong, because what I think is more embarrassing, calling back to that word that I saw thrown around a lot by Democrats and by mainstream media outlets, CBS 60 Minutes, Leslie Stahl said, quote unquote, this embarrassed not only a party, but an entire nation. And I think what's more embarrassing is the idea that we expect both Democrats and Republicans to be bobblehead dolls and just nod along and go along with, whatever the party leader says, and that they're not allowed to have their own policy goals, or that they don't have their own constituents with unique, inclinations for, how they think the nation, what direction they think the nation should move in. I personally, I would much rather live in a country and a democracy where it is, not considered embarrassing, and rather it is encouraged to, fight for those distinct goals. And I will also add that the concessions that those Republicans secured were not exactly, they're not just going to benefit the far right, which is kind of what the narrative has been. Even Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who no one would accuse of being conservative in really any way, shape, or form, told the press that some of the rules will benefit the left, and that is because they benefit everyone. The idea that, single issue bills that are not 4,000 pages long, but we just have to vote on in 2 hours without reading, or the concession that will allow people to debate floor amendments. Nancy Pelosi essentially operated under an oligarchy where she would submit legislation to the floor and no one could debate it or add amendments. Like, how does that serve the left or the right? And so I think that while some of those Republican dissidents do, in my opinion, far too often, just are doing things for social media attention, I don't think that this particular outcome is just performative. I think it is good for all of us.
Now, a lot of people would say, yeah, but Billy, that's really going to slow stuff down. They're not going to get as much done. It's going to be really messy, and it could get ugly during these debates. What's the answer to that?
Well, I think democracy is just really messy, to be honest. Like I said, the idea that this is one of the reasons that I specifically feel like I have always been politically homeless. The idea that there are just two binaries, and that, this binary spectrum, and like you fall completely on one side or the other, and like you just 100% agree with the right or 100% agree with the left. I think like very few people actually subscribe to that, but that is a system that we have, and we're not supposed to question it. I think democracy should be messy. I think there should be a push-pull. I think there should be compromise. I think there should be discussion. And like you said, this was a couple weeks out, but I do think it's important to keep talking about it, because I'll be disappointed if this is the last that we see of it.
We are visiting with Reason Magazine's Billy Binion. All right, now with such a narrow majority in the House of Representatives for the Republicans and a fairly narrow majority for the Democrats in the Senate, the stakes are just really, really high right now, Billy. Is there room in our body politic for that sort of robust, good faith discussion? Or at some point, do you say, this is my team, that's the opponent, some would call them enemies, and the stakes are too high. I am not going to compromise my principles. Where do principles and compromise, I guess, coexist?
Well, I mean, calling back to your earlier question about like things aren't going to get done, I would say very little gets done in the legislative branch as it is. That's the unfortunate reality. So much of the legislating has been outsourced to the judiciary, which I very much disagree with. But I think part of the legislative process, and especially as someone who is politically homeless, I think gridlock is not so much a bad thing. People talk about it like it's the end of the world to, have the legislative branches and the executive branch, be at odds with each other. I think, that probably curbs some of the excesses that you can see in government sometimes when you have a more uniform approach, when you have everyone on the left just saying, oh, we all have to agree with this, and you have like two senators with like Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin like putting a stop to all of that. I think gridlock is good. And, like I said, so little gets done in Congress anyway. If the gridlock that we do have is stopping some of the worst excesses of both sides, I don't think excesses, is just something that the left struggles with. But I think if they keep each other in check, I don't, like I said, that's seen as a bad thing in the press and in pop culture. But I reject that. I think that that's how the system is supposed to work.
Billy, I've just got a minute or so left, but let me ask you this. Are there any lessons from what we saw in Washington, D.C., or the focus on having that discussion, having that debate that we can take to our local communities, to ourselves, as opposed to maybe the tribalism or the partisanship?
Yeah, I mean, I will just reemphasize that if I ever see that kind of reaction again to, debate, whether it's in local legislators or above, local legislatures or above, if it's your county or state, whatever, I do hope that it won't be, kind of branded as embarrassing. I think that specifically, you kind of got that rap because, everyone is looking to national politics and everyone's very tribal. So if you're already going in thinking, oh, I really don't like Republicans, like, I want to believe that this was embarrassing. This was like, they made a fool of them. They made fools of themselves or whatever. It was a few days in January, and at the end of the day, they got what they wanted, or those dissidents got what they wanted. They got that compromise, and if anything, shouldn't that be a win? Shouldn't that be when you have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez saying that this compromise is going to benefit us too? Like, it's good for the American people to be able to talk about things, even if you don't get everything that you want. Like, I think it should be encouraged to, fight for your particular policy ideas, fight for your constituents, and see what you get out of it.
All right, Billy, where do we get in touch with you? Online, web, social media? What's the best way?
Oh, I'm over at Reason Magazine and on Twitter, Billy Binion, which I know sounds like a fake name, but that's my name.
All right, Billy. Hey, appreciate you being on the show again. A good thing for people to think about and debate.
Yeah, thanks very much.
All right, I'm really curious about what you think here. 314-912-1019. Let me tell you the one thing I agree with Billy the most in that conversation is that you all know I love gridlock. I love it. I love sweet, sweet gridlock, especially in Congress, because that means they can't mess up more stuff. When they don't get something done, that's usually a good thing. So what's the balance? Because I know there's a lot of us who say, look at what the Democrats are trying to push. I don't want to compromise on that. But at the same time, can you say, I'm not compromising, but at least I'll hear you out? So how much value is there in that full, robust debate, or is that just something that sounds great from a time gone by? Listen, a lot of us rightfully complained when Nancy Pelosi was ruling with an iron fist, like Billy just said a couple minutes ago. So should Republicans lead in a different way and say, you know what, let's have the debate, and hopefully we still get the right result when we vote? What do you think? 314-912-1019, 314-912-1019. This is 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Let's talk about it.
Try to make me stop. Inspiration.
Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Here comes the storm, and you don't have a snow and ice removal contractor. Go to stlfenceworks.com and schedule snow and ice removal service now. For fully insured commercial snow and ice removal on demand, contact STL Fenceworks today.
They say good things come to those who wait, unless you bite into a Hot Pocket right out of the microwave. Waiting to see a financial advisor about retirement could also bring some pain. The pain of watching your money evaporate in a stock market decline. The pain of trying to figure out Social Security and Medicare on your own. Or the pain of writing huge checks to the IRS that you really didn't have to. At the All Financial Group, they believe the more you know, the better decisions they can make. They offer a complimentary retirement assessment Find out where you are, how you're doing, and if there's a way to improve your retirement outcome. Don't wait. Call the All Financial Group today, 636-230-8824, or online at yourmoneymattersstl.com and set up your complimentary retirement review.
Investment advisory services offered through Brookstone Wealth Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor. BWA and All Financial Group, LLC are separate companies.
Hi, I'm Rodney Wallner.
And I'm Jen Wallner with the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway.
Hey, Jen, how do you sell your home for top dollar?
That's easy. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What if I want a flexible commission plan?
Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What's the best time to sell your home?
Right now, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
For all your real estate needs, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
That's 314-810-SOLD.
Here comes the storm, and you don't have a snow and ice removal contractor. Go to stlfenceworks.com and schedule snow and ice removal service now. For fully insured commercial snow and ice removal on demand, contact STL Fenceworks today.
Fox News commentary.
Get this, an ex-FBI agent involved in the Trump Russiagate probe has been indicted for aiding a Russian oligarch. You can't make this stuff up. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
If I could be you.
And you could be me? For just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Plot twist for you. Ex-FBI agent Charles McGonigal, who led the FBI's counterintelligence division in New York and was involved in the Trump-Russia investigation, has been indicted for conspiring to remove sanctions on a Russian oligarch with ties to Putin. According to prosecutors, McGonigal allegedly received $225,000 from a former Russian intelligence officer while he was still employed by the FBI. This is all too rich, folks, and yet another perfect example of why the FBI swamp needs to be drained, and now. It's really hard to have trust in our institutions when stuff like this keeps coming out. It sure seems like we live under a two-tiered justice system with conservatives usually on the losing end. This is yet another stain on the Bureau, a stain it really doesn't need. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show Tommy Lahren is Fearless at Outkick.com.
St. Louis's place to talk.
Because that's where the votes are getting stolen. When you get into the facts and logic and reason thing, it drives me crazy because you're right.
I call it the oh my God virus.
News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion.
Hey, Bill O'Reilly here, and you can hear my no-spin commentary right here at 6:45 this evening. Now it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hey, there's a lot of you on Rumble right now. Hey, everybody on Rumble.
Hello there.
How are you? Hey, if you don't mind, hey, check in. Let me know. Just in the Rumble chat box right there. We got a pretty good discussion going from our conversation about the presidential possible candidates, particularly Mike Pence and Donald Trump and some of those others. But just check in. Where are y'all from there? I see Taratina's in there. Smoozy Q, everybody's favorite Susie Moore, is in there. Goat Lady, good to see you again. But yeah, we've got a pretty high number of folks checking us out on Rumble right now. I didn't look at the Facebook comments just yet, but I know there's a lot of people. But say hi, join it, especially with Rumble. Love it, love it, love it. I'm Mike Ferguson. It is 8:20. That's Stel Ponticus. Okay, a few things happening around, not just around St. Louis, but around the country as well. We now know there was more crime than we realized Friday and Saturday at some really popular entertainment districts in St. Louis City. I'll get to that in just a second. Also, many reports, including from Major League Baseball, say that the new TV voice and face of the Cardinals has been picked. I'll tell you who that is in just a second. Stella and I talked about this earlier. I think we agree. This is a pretty good pick.
Oh, I think it's a great choice, to be honest with you.
And it looks like it's probably 95% correct. I mean, they just haven't probably figured out the details of the contract, but it looks like we know who it is. All right, so before the shots were fired at police at the Foundry over the weekend. That entire case where 3 juveniles were arrested, and a 16-year-old and a 15-year-old had illegal weapons. One of them was modified with a sear, so it was a fully auto, and then just handed over to the parents. Crying out loud. There was actually more property crime that led up to that. So at the Foundry, there were a lot of car break-ins, and it turns out at the same time there were car break-ins happening at the Armory as well in the parking lot. So this isn't anything new. It's been happening all over the area for daily almost. Carjackings have been happening, but that property crime was more than what we actually thought now. This is the norm. And Mayor Tashara Jones still is reacting and talking about the violent crime and the shots being fired, saying, what the real problem is, Republicans passing pro-Second Amendment laws, and we're going to go after those laws, and still not saying we're going to catch criminals, we're going to prosecute them, we're going to imprison violent criminals, and then we're going to get them off the street. So the message is sent to every other criminal out there: you want to do this, you're taking a huge risk with the rest of your life.
And I think about how families are affected by these car break-ins. Some of them probably just have that one vehicle that the whole family has to use. You have to get the window repaired. You're going to have to pay your deductible. Who knows if you have to wind up getting a rental car for a few days. I saw a few folks comment that, you know what, I'll just take Uber to work every day. So I don't even, and it's for special events. I'll just Uber down to the Fox Theater or to a ball game or to the Blues or whatever's going on if I have a concert to go to, because I don't want to deal with this issue.
Right. And increasingly what eventually is going to happen is people are going to say, I'm just not going to deal with it. I'm just not going to go.
Yes.
I'm just not going to go downtown. Have you ever had your home or your car broken into?
Both.
The feeling of violation doesn't go away when you get the new window.
I mean, we had our home literally ransacked.
I had that happen. Yeah, I had that once too. Somebody broke in, stole a gun, which I had hidden very well in my home, and they tore through enough stuff that they found it, and it was not laying out. I mean, they had to really look for it, and so they stole some electronics, the basics, and so the feeling sticks with you. My daughter had her car broken into, some stuff stolen, personal things, and even though it wasn't a lot of stuff, the feeling of it just persists with you. So in addition to everything you just said, this sort of crime, and I would say a car break-in, that is a violent crime. Breaking and entering and all that, people think of violent crime as just a shooting or an assault. Property crimes oftentimes are violent crimes as well, even if a person didn't actually get hurt. So as opposed to a white-collar crime, which are still bad enough. So, the city has some big consequences coming. And we need to get away from Republican, Democrat type thing. Listen, St. Louis City's not going to elect any or a lot of Republicans. Maybe the Republicans can win 1 or 2 alderman seats this year. Who knows? Maybe they can be competitive. But overall, there's not going to be a shift change to red in St. Louis City. It's just not happening.
It's going to take another generation. And we've already gone through 1 or 2 generations since the last Republican mayor.
Oh, no, we've gone through
1950.
Yeah. I mean, it's been, so you're looking at 70 years.
Yes.
I mean, a generation is generally considered 20 years. So that is a long time. And the city has to say, the Democratic Party in St. Louis City has to look around and say, okay, we're protecting our machine. We're going to win. Are you going to start moving people through your machine that are going to rein in the problems? Because what's happening is the rot in St. Louis City is hollowing out the city. That's what's happened, past tense. That's what's happening, present tense. That is what is going to happen, future tense. And everybody knows it because, like you said, we have got a 70-year track record of what happens when radicals run a city and they consistently move far to the left. It's not just that your economy suffers, it's that people get hurt, people die.
And meanwhile, let me also bring this out. Since 1950, the population's gone from 850,000 to about 280,000. It's the largest population drop of any major metro city in the nation.
Yeah.
60-some% of the folks have left the city to either go to one of the collar counties or totally move out of the area.
There absolutely are cultural influences on this. Garland called earlier and said you can't discount the education aspect of it.
Mhm.
Very, very, very true.
Mhm.
But there's also policy. There's also political. And the bottom line is that the criminals are primarily to blame for this. They're the ones that you blame first. St. Louis City, you're voting for people who are enabling them and encouraging them. This is on you too. How long do you go before you say, I'm not voting for Kimberly Gardner. I'm not voting for the other people who are taking a pro-criminal approach and just want to grandstand on other issues. So listen, voters, this is on you too. I know that makes people mad. I'm not supposed to call out the listening audience, but in St. Louis City, voters, this is on you if you keep supporting the people who are making these decisions. All right. Nationally, House Republicans demanding that the Secret Service turn over visitor logs for President Biden's Delaware home. Fox News' Jackie Ibanez has the details.
House Oversight Chairman James Comer sent this letter to the director of the Secret Service requesting records after the agency said last week it would hand over its own visitor logs to President Biden's Wilmington home. According to that letter, Comer is requesting all documents and communications related to visitor information at President Biden's Wilmington, Delaware home from January 20, 2017 to present. Meanwhile, as the Senate returns today, Senate Intel Chair Mark Warner still waiting for a briefing and threat assessment on both the Trump and Biden docudramas. And now that we know some of the latest documents seized were from Biden's time in the Senate.
And we don't know if there are any more, and if so, how many more there are. But did you notice that they're talking about Senator Mark Warner? He's waiting on the threat assessment, which is actually one of the processes. That's not good when you've got to say, okay, what is potentially the threat or the damage or the exposure that this could have left? In this case, with these documents being unsecured for as long as they were.
And what are the political ramifications of this entire episode? I guess we're going to find out here over the next few weeks. And to be honest with you, I thought everybody said there were no visitor documents. And now all of a sudden the Secret Service says, oh, yeah, we got some visitor logs here. Okay.
Well, originally that's what was said, is the White House said that there was no visitor records or logs or anything like that. And I don't know how much the Secret Service wants to get out into the public eye, but it was the White House that was saying that didn't exist.
Boy.
It's going to be a while. I think it's going to be a while before we have everything involved in this.
As I like to say, I smell a rat. That's a Chicago phrase.
Yes.
I smell a rat.
All right, a couple quick things here. We are under a winter storm warning right now. It's going to be pretty nice today. Enjoy it for the next 12 hours or 10 hours if you want. But we are looking in St. Louis, and we're talking about the whole region right now. Generally is in that forecasted 4 to 6 inches of snow. Wet, sloppy snow to start with, turning over into not so sloppy snow. Maybe some of that will end up freezing a little bit, but mostly we're just looking at snow, but still be really careful. It's going to start moving in late overnight tonight. Of course, here on News Talk STL, we're going to have weather updates throughout the entire day. Quick note on the Blues. They wrap up their homestand tonight, hosting the Buffalo Sabres. We don't have the final word on it yet, but it looks like possibly Vladimir Tarasenko could be back in the lineup tonight after that long injury. Puck drops at 7. ESPN Plus has the game. Let's talk some Cardinals real quick for about a minute or so here.
Yeah.
Multiple reports, including MLB.com, are reporting that Chip Carey, son of Skip Carey, grandson of Harry Carey, will be the new voice of the Cardinals on television on Bally Sports Midwest. Chip Carey knows St. Louis. He is a Parkway West graduate. Now, he's been calling games for the Atlanta Braves for the past 18 seasons, and he was with the
Cubs before that, and Mariners.
Mariners
and
for a little bit too, yeah. Because he called, was it with his, I think it was with Harry Carey for a little bit, then Harry Carey passed away, but didn't he work a few games with his grandfather?
Could very well have done that, yes.
I know he worked some with his dad,
yes.
But I think that was in Atlanta. But yeah, he's worked with both of them, so it looks like Chip Carey could be the new, it looks like he is the new TV face and voice of the St. Louis Cardinals. Being a broadcast guy, being a baseball guy, I think this is a really good choice.
I totally agree, and he's done some other sports, by the way. He's done basketball in the past. The one thing that I really like about him when he calls a game is he lets the game develop every inning.
Yeah.
And he doesn't barrage you with verbiage between every pitch. He just kind of lets the game come to him. He makes his comments. He lets his color his color guy chip in, if I can use that phrase. And he handles the broadcasts very well, and I think it's a great choice.
Trivia question. His dad, Skip Carey, was a play-by-play announcer for which team in St. Louis before that team moved away from St. Louis?
Before they moved away?
Yes, that's your hint. So his dad, Skip Carey.
Gosh, I'm going too far back with the Browns, but
yeah, not quite that far.
Not that far back. Team that moved out of town. Boy, I got to say I'm not sure.
The ABA?
The Spirits?
Nope. Hawks.
Oh, the Hawks!
Yep.
Oh my goodness, the Hawks moving to Atlanta.
That's right.
Oh my goodness.
Skip Carey called the Hawks game.
Oh
so
my!
You've got 3 generations of Carey broadcasters now in St. Louis, assuming that this is correct about Chip Carey, which it is. We've got 90+%. The Atlantic is reporting it. MLB.com is reporting it. It looks like Chip Carey is the new Cardinals broadcaster, and I think good choice. Good choice.
Totally agree. Atlanta Hawks, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good trivia question. I like that.
Old ABA Hawks.
I like that.
314-912-1019. Going to play you Mayor Tashara Jones' reaction to a lot of this violence is happening. Whose fault is it? Well, it's the fault of Republicans and their Second Amendment insistence. I'm not kidding. I'll play it for you in about 8:36 on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Whether at home or at work, you're mobile. So when you're mobile, stay mobile. Keep St. Louis's home for conservative talk with you wherever you go. Download the News Talk STL app in the App Store or at newstalkstl.com.
From the News Talk STL newsroom, I'm Joey Vasovich. The 24-year-old Florissant man who struck and killed Metro East police officer Brian Pierce Jr. in August of 2021 has been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The man hit and killed Pierce, a Brooklyn police officer, on the McKinley Bridge while fleeing a traffic stop. The House held a moment of silence yesterday for former Representative and House Speaker Tom Villa from St. Louis. He also served as the St. Louis Board of Aldermen president. Villa died Friday of a heart attack at the age of 77. A 72-year-old woman from Caseyville, Illinois appeared in federal court Monday and admitted to cashing Social Security benefits for her dead mother for 12 years. The Social Security Administration eventually discovered the woman had died and determined they had deposited $128,656 into the bank account. Governor Parson wants to use the state's multi-billion-dollar surplus to give state employees a raise to offset inflation and keep employees from leaving for better-paying jobs. His plan includes the largest pay raise in Missouri's history, an 8.7 cost of living adjustment, as state operations are being stretched thin. And in sports, Chip Carey will be the new Cardinals play-by-play broadcaster, The Athletic reported Monday. Carey, a St. Louis native, is a current broadcaster for the Atlanta Braves. He is the grandson of former Cardinals broadcaster Harry Carey. For in-depth coverage of these stories and more, go to newstalkstl.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Cloudy and chilly this morning, but dry. The temperature's right around the freezing mark to start off your Tuesday. The high today above normal, 46 degrees on a southerly wind ahead of a system that begins to bring us some light mix later this evening in St. Louis and a changeover to wet, heavy snow overnight. We'll see some accumulations by morning of slushy snow as temperatures remain above freezing overnight tonight and remain above freezing during the day tomorrow. The snow will be winding down by mid-morning, but through the metro area, 3 to 6, maybe as much as 7 inches to the south. Heavier snow to the south and a little bit lighter to the north. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
Are you the type of person who loves their community and wants it to be the best it can be? Now it's easier than ever to do your part. Go to recyclemo.com to see just how easy it is to recycle the right way. Or if you already recycle and want to be as efficient as possible, recyclemo.com can tell you what should and should not be recycled in your area. Become part of the clean recycling movement today. It's the right thing to do. Sponsored by the Missouri Department of Natural Resources.
Hi there. Hey, it's Tony Colombo inviting you to join me for a great show coming to Westport Playhouse for 2 consecutive nights, February 3rd and 4th. The Retro Nerds present a tribute to Sting and Peter Gabriel. Support local music and come see a great show at the beautiful, newly reopened Westport Playhouse. Enjoy the music of Sting and Peter Gabriel on both Friday and Saturday night, February 3rd and 4th, brought to you by Amicus Wealth Partners. Get more info and your tickets now at westportplayhouse.com.
Have you been floored? Not until you've gone to Michael's Flooring Outlet. They've been a locally owned and operated family business for more than 28 years. You want variety? Michael's has carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, luxury vinyl, natural stone, and many other options. Save money and get quality at Michael's. Plus, your installation will be done right the first time when you hire the experts at Michael's. You can shop in store at one of their 3 convenient locations or shop from home. Check out everything that Michael's has to offer at igotfloored.com.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
What citizen wouldn't want to make America great again?
Live and local.
And their leadership has been substandard.
I think the word substandard is immensely polite.
This is News Talk STL.
Hey, this is Larry Connors. Make sure you're listening later today at 6 o'clock on News Talk STL for my show, Larry Connors USA. Now, back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Still always looks at me. He's like, why aren't you talking yet?
You're digging the tunes.
Because this is my favorite Motley Crue song.
By the way, just to clear up a point about the St. Louis Hawks,
yep.
For sports fans who are out there thinking, these guys don't know what they're talking about. Well, we were a little stumped, and actually the St. Louis Hawks were in the NBA.
Yes, because I said the ABA, and in the break, Estelle said, I don't think that's right. And I looked up the article that I was reading from about Chip Carey, and it referenced his dad, Skip, being a broadcaster for the old St. Louis Hawks of the ABA. I'm like, well, it says it right here on this article. But then I went and looked up the Hawks history, and you're right, they were the NBA. They were not the ABA. And that takes me. Sometimes the articles get it wrong, but when I get it wrong, I will say I got it wrong. So the Hawks were in the NBA when they were here in St. Louis. They were in the NBA before they got to St. Louis when they were in Milwaukee.
That's right.
And they remain in the NBA now. As far as I know, I don't really watch the NBA anymore. So
yeah, still have the Atlanta Hawks. And when they were here, they won an NBA championship.
Yeah, they did. They won one.
Just that one, I believe.
Right. And here's the thing, interesting. I just learned that before they were, the Atlanta Hawks, before that they were the St. Louis Hawks, before that they were the Milwaukee Hawks, before that they were the Tri-Cities Blackhawks.
Oh, my.
So they started off as Blackhawks.
Wow.
Which I had no idea.
Interesting trivia note.
There you
go.
go.
In case someone wants to use that for trivia night somewhere, go for it.
All right, 314-912-1019. Last little bit of time before Vic Porcelli gets in. Focus here today obviously has been on not just the violent crime, because there's only so much you can say about some things. Crime bad, St. Louis City politicians bad. Okay, fine, that's fine. But the areas where St. Louis City depends on people coming in from other parts of the metro area are what are being targeted by the criminals. I mean, let's be really, really, really candid here. The new soccer stadium.
Exactly where I was going to go. Yes.
It is built in the city. They said it's got to be in downtown St. Louis. Where are those fans going to come from? Chesterfield and St. Charles.
And where are they going to park?
Yep.
And sadly, it's going to be a tough issue for a lot of those folks. They're going to think twice before coming down.
Yeah. When they renovated the Armory, when they built up the Foundry, where do they think their customers are going to come from? They're coming from St. Louis County. They're coming from St. Charles County, mostly St. Louis County because of proximity. When they built the stadium, is there a big passion for MLS European-style soccer, on, Grand and over on, Euclid or something? No, there's not. They're counting on everybody driving in, just like we do for Cardinals games, just like we do for concerts. We talk about St. Louis being the economic engine of Missouri. One, I'm not convinced that is completely the case anymore.
I agree.
And the economic center of the region has moved to Clayton, I believe. It's not in the St. Louis city anymore. But they're counting on people coming in from outside the city, coming to an event, dropping a bunch of cash, eating some food, watching a game, paying a parking fee, and then going home.
And in regards to the soccer stadium, yes, St. Louis is a huge soccer town. You've got the history of St. Louis University winning the most NCAA titles I believe it might be 12. I'm not sure how many it is. It's a large amount of NCAA titles. You've got all the high school and college teams that are in the area. You got SIU Edwardsville with great soccer history, and yet the stadium is located downtown, and it's going to be interesting how well things go.
And they will fill that stadium,
yeah.
Without a doubt. They will fill it. But the point that I'm making is that when you talk about this crime, because I know there are people in St. Charles and St. Louis kind of saying, okay, Mike, we get it. St. Louis is a violent city, is a violent place. That's why I don't go there. Okay, that's the point, is because when you've got what happened at the Foundry, when you've got what happened at the Armory, and they can only do so much. The Armory saying we're putting in metal detectors, we've got cameras everywhere, we're updating our plan with our security. That's great. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're doing what they can do. And I'd never been to the Armory until Saturday, and I had a great time. It was at the Battlehawks game. Battlehawks going into the Dome. Okay? So these are the things that affect not just St. Louis City with revenue, but affect the region as well. Every single St. Louis Battlehawks game is going to be on national television. So you're going to be able to watch it, but it's going to be a lot more fun to be there. I plan to go to the games. I went to the Blues game, one of the Blues games last week. I plan to go to games. Cardinals, I generally go to the daytime games just because I work an overnight shift. But all of these things affect everything that people are trying to revitalize St. Louis with. So, the city, remember, was it 3 or 4 years ago when the MLS franchise was awarded to St. Louis, they had a big party. They had a big celebration, and they want this to be part of revitalizing and developing St. Louis downtown. And what I'm saying is that just like when you look at Square came to downtown, they did it as a mission to try to help be a part of the revitalization of downtown, and they had to abandon it because it's not safe. Don't think that can't happen with other businesses. It just don't think it can't happen at all.
And remember all the involvement that Centene had with the stadium, and
Right.
they've backed out since then.
They don't have a choice. And they criticize the city, saying, you're not doing enough to keep this place safe. Don't think for a minute that 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road, if not before then, that at some point somebody says, okay, we're going to sell out a Blues game. God forbid we're going to sell out a Cardinals game, but we can do that in St. Charles just like we can do it here. We can do that, in some unincorporated area in western, the county. That can happen. Do I foresee it? No. But if that ever even comes up in conversation, because it has come up in other conversations in other cities. Kansas City Chiefs talked about moving into Kansas at one point. Now, I think some of that may have been just a threat to try to get a new stadium. But they actually thought about it, because the Kansas side, which is most of it far safer, there's part of it that's kind of ugly, they were able to attract their MLS team. St. Louis's MLS team is going to be the only MLS team in Missouri. People forget that. The Kansas one, or the Kansas City one, is in Kansas. All of that can be at risk because of the crime problem. Who do we got?
We have Ken on line 3.
All right.
Ken.
Ken, you're on News Talk STL. I got about 2 minutes for you.
Okay. Hey, love the show. You guys are looking at the pieces of the puzzle. Put them all together. The bad schools, going against churches and the religion, that it's all bad. The crime, take the guns away. It's all by design on the Democrat side. It keeps you scared. It keeps you locked up in your own home where you don't have a community. They keep you stupid. So why? Because it gives them power. You need to have those Democrats in power to protect you, to take care of you. They do this on purpose.
So, yeah, because the argument would be, is it intentional with bad policies, or is it just unbelievable incompetence?
It's intentionally bad policy. It keeps you dependent on them. When you go out in the outlying areas where it's, as Tashara said, they're the blue dot in the red state. When you get out in the red states, I go to work every day. I earn my money. I take care of myself and my family. I don't need the government. You build the highways, you take care of the military, do the big things. I don't need them in my day-to-day life. That drives the Democrats crazy. They got to have power, and they're making the big bucks off of you. And they throw you the scraps and tell you how lucky you are to have them. And that's why they had to take over the schools, because then you don't know any better.
Yeah,
but they keep you scared and fearful because then you need them to protect you and to take care of you.
Yeah, Ken, I've got to get to an information break, but really appreciate you being on. Yeah, when it comes to schools, and I've said this before, is if we tried to come up with intentionally the worst possible way to mass educate people, we'd have what we have right now and the current system that we have. I mean, look it up. It goes back to the industrial era because we had to create a system of compliant, obedient workers in the industrial era. And that's the model that we still have on that today. All right, 314-912-1019, talking about, government, depending on government. Got some annoyances with my local government. Should I vent on the radio?
Might as well, yeah.
But I need a permit. I don't want to make them mad. All right. I'll get to that in just a second, and also refer to that sound clip that Ken just referenced. I'm going to play that just ahead so you hear what he's talking about, and he's totally right in what she said. That's just ahead about 8:51 on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Columbo and Katie.
On Tuesday, Crane Durham from NothingButTruth.com joins us to discuss the latest surrounding Joe's game of Hide the Papers. Plus, Steve Templeton will prepare us for the snow heading our way with a full forecast at 2:50.
Weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL.
Here comes the storm, and you don't have a snow and ice removal contractor. Go to stlfenceworks.com and schedule snow and ice removal service now. For fully insured commercial snow and ice removal on demand, contact STL Fenceworks today.
Hey, Columbo here for Rockwood Charcoal. I love to grill and definitely prefer using charcoal over gas. And ever since I met Jonathan Heslop and he introduced me to his product, Rockwood Lump Charcoal, I can't use anything else. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory and has been the nationally highest consumer-ranked charcoal for several years. So you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. Doesn't get any better than that. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
Hey folks, Tim Jones here for Hanson's Tree Service, available 24/7 at hansonstree.com. Chad Hanson offering a 10% winter discount for everyone in News Talk STL Nation for all tree care services performed from now until March 31st, 2023. Just mention that when you're giving them a call. That includes all removals, trim and pruning, deadwood removal, stump grinding, everything for the exterior of your home, all your landscaping around that homestead or small business. Great chance to save money and time before winter storms really roll in. 636-379-1830, 24/7 at hansonstree.com.
Hey, it's Katie. We here at News Talk STL really appreciate the growth in our business during our first 18 months since we signed on the air. We appreciate the great local businesses like Save Money with Doug Voss, Crypto World, and the Natural Institute of Health that have all become part of our family of advertising partners. If your business is interested in becoming part of the News Talk STL family, simply send an email to info@newstalkstl.com. 1019 941 News Talk STL.
Here comes the storm, and you don't have a snow and ice removal contractor. Go to stlfenceworks.com and schedule snow and ice removal service now. For fully insured commercial snow and ice removal on demand, contact STL Fenceworks today.
Subscribe and watch your favorite News Talk STL shows. Mike Ferguson in the Morning, The Vic Porcelli Show, Columbo and Katie, Jones and Arps. Webcam streaming on Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. Subscribe and watch News Talk STL.
Hey, it's Joe Pags. Catch me tonight at 7 o'clock. But right now, back to more of Mike Ferguson in the Morning on News Talk STL.
Okay, it's my turn now to dig the tunes. Okay, I'm fine.
There you go. Got your fill.
All right.
Got your fix.
By the way, today is National Peanut Butter Day. I'm just tossing that out there.
Oh.
Do you like plain or do you like the with nuts? You like smooth or
if
nutty?
I'm not a huge peanut butter guy, but if I had to choose, it would be the creamy kind.
Okay, creamy.
You?
So I agree. Yeah, more creamy. I think when I was a kid, I liked the nutty for some reason, and I've moved over to the creamy side.
You know what's really one of the many weird things about me is I don't really care for peanut butter most of the time, although our boss Jeff has these little peanut butter pretzel things, and I will snack on those. But I like peanuts. I like almonds. I like all those. Just for some reason, peanut butter just isn't my thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. I don't hate it, but it's just not my.
I love peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So
Yeah.
and that and a nice cold glass of milk, and I'm fine.
There you go. All right, it's 8:51. I'm Mike. That's Stell. I want to play this soundbite from Tashara Jones to see just how out of touch the city leadership is on the crime plague. I mean, I don't want to cheapen it by saying, well, the crime issue, the crime headlines is what in the hell. No, people are being hurt. People are being. One of the police officers reported that when those juveniles were firing at them, that he heard and felt a bullet whiz by his ear. So I'm looking, okay, so about 4 inches, 3-4 inches, that's fatal. It got hit. So he was unbelievably protected and fortunate in that case. So we were talking about the fact that in many cities, locations of development, whether it's a business district, whether it's an entertainment district, all of the things designed to bring people into St. Louis City to try to revitalize it are the ones being targeted by these criminals. And we have seen it over. And how many news stories did we report, Stell, on either a carjacking, one, of a uniformed police officer, and two, the car break-ins happening at the Enterprise Center outside of concerts and games and things like that?
And one of the attempted carjackings was outside Enterprise Center.
It was.
Of a police officer's car.
Who was in uniform.
Wow.
I mean, he was hired off duty to provide security, but he was a St. Louis City sheriff deputy. He was a sheriff's officer who was in his law enforcement uniform and was carjacked outside the Enterprise Center. And Jane Duker mentioned a little bit earlier, the second time in a week that somebody fired shots at police officers and were either sent home or not even taken to jail. And Mayor Tashara Jones at the U.S. Conference of Mayors has this to say about what the real problem is, in her opinion. And by the way, this soundbite, she chose and tweeted out herself. So I'm taking this literally directly from her Twitter. Here's where she thinks that the emphasis should be.
We are blue dots in a red state. And we face challenges when it comes to addressing gun violence in our city. The state's preemption laws prevent us from using common sense gun safety laws to keep people safe. Further, our police are finding even more deadly weapons flooding our streets. More than 90% of the 2,656 guns confiscated by the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department last year were semi-automatic. That's up 75% from 4 years ago. Illegal modifications like auto sears, Glock switches, and lightning links can convert semi-automatic weapons into fully automatic ones, meaning users can hold down the trigger and spray bullets, emptying a clip in seconds. We've seen a 500% increase in these devices in the region in the last 3 years and are working with ATF to address the rise. In the face of these challenges, we're working to improve public safety in a variety of ways. First, St. Louis and fellow municipalities in Missouri are suing to overturn the Second Amendment Preservation Act, which prevents police in the state from enforcing federal gun laws at the risk of steep financial penalty. The risk is $50,000 per occurrence for our law enforcement whenever anyone thinks that their Second Amendment rights have been violated.
Okay, so there we have it. What does she blame? Inanimate objects, the guns that are being used as tools of crime, Republicans in Jefferson City, and any defense of the Second Amendment. You notice what she did not say there, Stell. Prosecuting criminals. Arresting them, keeping them in jail, charging them with crimes that can get harsh sentences, focusing on violent criminals and keeping them off the streets. No, it's the Republican politicians in Jefferson City.
I almost get the feeling that she's covering for Kim Gardner.
Yeah,
You know?
well, I mean, I think they're of the same mindset.
Yes.
I mean, I haven't heard any, demonstrative statements from the mayor's office regarding, shots specifically fired, at police officers or the woman who was let go and then rearrested on felony charges. But like I've said before, not really, kind of the lower level ones. I mean, they not attempted manslaughter, not anything, not assault on a law enforcement officer. And so I think you've got people who are of the same outlook and ideology, which is law enforcement is bad and oppressive, and that you can't focus on making things safe if that goes against some kind of constructed left-wing narrative, which is what we're dealing with. So what I'm saying is you can have your political narratives, you can have your political ideologies, you can have all that, but at some point you have to be able to step back and go, this isn't working, maybe I'm wrong.
And to be honest with you, I'm waiting for the new police chief to make some type of statement, and we haven't heard anything yet.
I have high hopes for him.
So
I
do I.
still think we should be supporting him until shown otherwise. But I think you're right, Stell. I think at some point he has to say, listen, part of the plan here isn't just building bridges and showing up at people's churches and maybe showing up at a midnight basketball. It's locking up criminals, but he has to know that they're going to stay locked up. And I think he does need to get out there and say, we're doing our job. The rest of the process has to work with us. Vic Porcelli coming your way here at about 9:04 on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Talk radio made in St. Louis.
Very excited for what you guys are doing for the St. Louis community.
For St. Louis.
Relevant local talk.
Saying what we are thinking.
This is News Talk STL.
No, you guys are awesome. I love you. And it's a tremendous honor to be on the station.